I ascend to the throne of God with arcane magic. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, Breaking the Formation. Boom. The second blue fireball shattered on the advanced elemental shield. The man in black breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that there should be no problem in blocking the attack of the third blue fireball. There were only a few breaths left before the teleportation array could be activated normally. At that time, he would be able to free up his hands to teach this arrogant Lisi a lesson. Just as the man in black was still fantasizing about how to deal with Viscount Arcane in the prepared secret place, a sudden change occurred. The third blue fireball seemed to be no different from the previous two attacks, but when it hit the advanced elemental shield, it suddenly exploded violently. Sizzle boom. The violent explosion occurred in front of the man in black, and the advanced elemental shield collapsed in this terrifying impact. Fortunately, this huge shockwave was mostly blocked by the advanced protective force field that was thought to be useless. Otherwise, it is estimated that the man in black would die directly on the spot with his fragile body. But even so, the clothes of the man in black had been shattered in the remaining impact, and the blue flames that fell on him were like maggots on the tarsal bones, burning his flesh all over his body. Woo-goo, the man in black moaned in extreme pain from his throat, and the muscle lines on his face were beating violently. The reason why the third blue ball spell produced an abnormal explosion was that Lisi attached the 3-ring arcane collapse explosion to it. This is one of the newly developed arcane spells by Lisi, which can attach the burst energy to other energy shaping spells and activate it when the spell approaches the enemy, destroying the attached spells and converting all the energy into a special shockwave to carry out targeted attacks on the enemy's protective spells. The first actual combat use seems to be very effective. It directly broke the 2 4-ring protective spells of the man in black and severely damaged him. The shockwave destroyed all the clothes of the man in black, and his true face was exposed in front of Lisi. It was indeed him. Camus. Lisi just glanced at him, but he had no intention of asking him why he wanted to attack him. At this time, destroying the teleportation array under his feet is the most urgent. There are still 5 breaths left before the activation, and the teleportation array has been initially activated. Even if he rushed up to kill Camus, it would be useless. Lisi, who often used this trick to trick people in his previous life, knew very well that he would not waste this little time. Most of the magic patterns of the teleportation array had been destroyed by Lisi, and it seemed that 2 or 3 more swords would be needed. Lisi gritted his teeth and could not save any more. Who knew what was waiting for him behind the teleportation array? You used secret treasure, Arcadia's good luck brooch. You entered the lucky man. Duration 5 seconds. Ignoring the negative effects of using the good luck brooch, Lisi, who was blessed by the lucky man state, charged his sword again and slashed at the half-broken magic pattern. At this moment, the magic pattern sequence of the teleportation array seemed to stagnate for a while, and the magic pattern that Lisi slashed at suddenly dimmed for half a second. In this half second of lack of protection, Lisi's sword tip happened to fall on this magic pattern. TSK, the magic pattern without protection could not resist Lisi's destruction at all, and was neatly cut in half by Lisi together with the stone bricks below it. Damn, so awesome. Lisi was a little surprised. It felt so good to be promoted from an African chieftain to a European emperor, although it was only 5 seconds. As the magic pattern was broken by Lisi, the entire short distance directional magic teleportation array was also shattered in a twist, and the magic array worth thousands of gold was completely destroyed. Fortunately, it was only a primary magic array, not stable enough, and the startup time was long. Otherwise, even if I could recognize it, I would have no chance to interrupt the activation of the magic array. Lisi saw that there were only 3 seconds left in the lucky state, and he didn't care about resting. He quickly took out a hammer from the storage ring and smashed it at Camus. Camus, who was severely burned and had his magic power confused due to the broken magic array, had no way to use protective spells. He could only stand up and prepare to dodge to the left. Just as Camus stood up and moved, a banana peel seemed to have been waiting for Camus to land on the ground. As expected, Camus stepped on the banana peel and fell forward. His forehead just happened to meet the thrown hammer. Duong Lisi seemed to see the words "a critical hit" and hitting the vital point appearing on Camus' head. Camus, the intermediate mage, was knocked unconscious by Lisi's hammer. Lisi grinned, feeling a little amused. This lucky guy effect is too strong. Bananas from the southern coast of the continent are very rare fruits in Kangwang City. Lisi hasn't even eaten them yet. As a result, a piece of banana peel appeared here, causing Camus to be in bad luck. No, it should be said that Lisi was too lucky. This kind of probability event cannot be said to be non-existent, but when it really happened in front of him, Lisi felt that it was a little unreal. Your lucky guy status has ended. You get the unlucky guy effect. Duration: 72 hours. Lisi looked at the prompt refreshed on his system panel, and his body shook subconsciously. The lucky guy effect is so strong. How can the unlucky guy effect be simple? It's not like I can suffocate myself to death by drinking a mouthful of cold water. Lisi didn't notice that in the shadow not far away, the figure of the housekeeper Joyce was slowly fading away. As soon as the teleportation array was formed, Joyce had already felt the magic fluctuations and immediately sneaked to a distance to observe the situation. He was not in a hurry to show up to rescue Lisi, but waited for Lisi's own response. As a legendary assassin, he still had the ability and confidence to rescue Lisi at the last moment. However, Lisi's performance also surprised him. He easily subdued the intermediate wizard who attacked secretly. Although he used that strange treasure, the one who stood to the end was the winner, and the rest was not important. But soon Joyce frowned again. So which family would target little Lisi like this? I should have killed all the enemies of the master. Strange. Joyce turned his head to look at Welf and others who were rushing over, and shook his head. If little Lisi relied on you to protect him, he would have been gone long ago. Little did he know that in the plot of the previous life, he, a legendary strong man, stayed at home and didn't have time to save Lisi, and even his chance of resurrection was ruined. Master Lisi. Welf came running over with a few guards. He was shocked to see the mess around Lisi. Not long after he returned to the mansion, he heard a loud explosion from the direction where the young master left and hurriedly brought people to check. Fortunately, the young master was fine. Welf checked Lisi, and after confirming that he was not injured, he breathed a sigh of relief. He almost thought he was going to die. Lisi waved his hands helplessly, asked his guards not to surround him, and carried the unconscious Camus back. Although the battle just now was very short, it almost revealed most of Lisi's strength and trump cards. Naturally, he would not let Camus go so easily. Thank you all for your rewards and monthly tickets. When Tingayu has time, I will make an Easter egg chapter to thank you all. Asterisk backquote asterisk. Chapter 52. Are you an Arcanist? Fez Street, in a quiet alley. Fortunately, there are high walls all around, and no irrelevant people come to join in the fun, otherwise I would have to worry about how to cover it up. Lisi rubbed his arm. Although he was not injured in the previous battle, he used 3 blue ball techniques and 1 collapse explosion in a flash, which made his body suffer a severe magic shock. Thanks to the attribute correction of his strength attribute, his physical strength has increased a lot. If he can obtain the professional expertise of the monk and increase the toughness attribute points, then I guess he won't feel such shocks 100 times. After all, the monk pursues the transcendence of the flesh, and all his abilities are concentrated in his fists and feet. Which professional expertise of the monk is most suitable for him? Lisi moved his body to relieve the pain, while searching in the rubble. That was originally the core of the teleportation magic circle. Where is it? Lisi picked up a spherical crystal the size of a fingernail from a pile of rubble. It was transparent and colorless, and a small black dot could be vaguely seen in the center of the crystal. Sure enough, it was still there, the empty crystal. As the name implies, the empty crystal is a crystal that contains the power of space. The small black dot in the crystal is the embodiment of space energy. No one knows how this crystal is formed, but people have mastered the method of using the space energy in it through constant exploration. Almost all teleportation arrays are built with the empty crystal as a core. Because the teleportation array used by Camus just now was not activated and used normally, Lee Sin came to look for it to see if the empty crystal in this magic array is still there. You know, most of the value of the teleportation magic array is this empty crystal. Lee Sin happily put the empty crystal into the ring and then returned to the mansion accompanied by Welf. As for Yazan, I will go there after I'm done with my work. I think it won't cost me this time. I was originally thinking about how to catch Camus, but now he has come to my door. This child is really sensible. In the underground laboratory of Kane's mansion, Lee Sin asked the guards to tie Camus tightly to the chair and then waved them out. After all, there are some things I don't want them to know. Looking at Camus, who was still unconscious with a big bump on his head, Lee Sin nodded. How miserable. Lee Sin recited the spell with a happy mood. Third ring spell, sealing badge. After confirming that the magic power in Camus' body had been completely sealed by the grey special badge, Lee Sin cast the spell again. First ring spell awakening. The light green light fell on Camus, and the effect was significant. Camus soon responded. Ugh, it hurts. Camus opened his eyes in confusion. The bursts of severe pain on his forehead and the feeling of being tightly bound by the cowhide rope reminded him of the terrible environment he was in. Lee Sin. Camus opened his eyes and saw Lee Sin, and he almost fainted again. He originally planned to use the short distance directional magic teleportation array to teleport himself and Lee Sin to the prepared secret base, suppress him and test him, and then let him go. The excuse was all thought out in order to retaliate against Lee Sin for taking away his assistant qualification and to help his brother. Although this would not change his death penalty for attacking the nobles, it would not arouse Lee Sin's suspicion so as to affect the adult's subsequent plans. For this reason, he was even prepared to completely abandon the results of his efforts in the academy for more than 10 years and to remain anonymous in front of the adults for a long time. But who would have thought? This Lee Sin did not play by the rules at all. Which bronze mage could break the protective spell of a silver mage so easily? Which bronze mage could recognize the extremely rare short distance directional teleportation magic circle at a glance? Which bronze mage could actually cut off the magic pattern of the magic circle with a long sword? I lost. Lee Sin. Camus quickly calmed down and said to Lee Sin, who was standing opposite him, I was wrong this time. I just felt resentful and wanted to retaliate against you. I didn't mean anything else. Seeing that Camus still wanted to hide it, Lee Sin was not in a hurry and took a chair from the side and sat down. Okay, you still want to lie, don't you? Look at your current situation. Lee Sin crossed his legs, held his chin with his left hand, and said with a smile, even if I believe your lies, the crime of attacking nobles alone is enough to kill you several times. Camus' face turned pale, and he was silent for a few breaths, then lowered his head and said, I didn't expect you to hide so deeply, bronze mage. Then what do you want to let me go? Lee Sin spread his hands and said easily, I don't have any requirements. Tell me, who asked you to trouble me? Camus's face did not change, and he asked curiously, what are you talking about? Who else can it be? Myself. Lee Sin stared at Camus, which made Camus feel a little scared. Don't want to admit it, it doesn't matter. In fact, I already knew it. Lee Sin paused and said softly, would it be so easy to kill me on the holy festival? Camus still pretended to be puzzled, but his heart had begun to churn. To be honest, I have no idea what the adults want to do by testing Lee Sin. I just have a vague guess. Seeing Lee Sin's confident look, it seems that he has known the adults' secret plan for a long time. How is this possible? Lee Sin is just a court viscount. No, Lee Sin is definitely not that simple. He has been doing nothing in the academy for several years, spending resources that make people jealous, but achieving mediocre results. Now it seems that these should be his own disguise. He actually endured for so long in the contempt and secret ridicule of everyone. This person is too scary. If Lee Sin could hear Camus's inner voice now, he would probably be embarrassed to stop his deification behavior. Don't pretend. I knew it in school that day. Lee Sin now smiled like a villain, half squatting in front of Camus. The smile on his face was clearly a devil smile in Camus's eyes, with pity and ridicule. Camus took a deep breath and asked a question that was not quite relevant. Have you become an Arcanist? This question had been on Camus' mind since the battle. Even though he had a guess in his mind, he couldn't help but ask out loud. No. Li Si denied it without hesitation. He didn't have the bad habit of not finishing off the villains who had a big advantage, but instead introduced his own abilities. Seeing that Li Si didn't show any surprise when he heard the name Arcanist, Camus knew what was going on. Abnormal spell power, strange spell effects, terrifying knowledge reserves. Is this the horror of the Arcanist? How did he get involved with such a monster? That was the path that many golden mages pursued, and now it was right in front of him. An Arcanist under the age of 20? Bernie, who was hailed as the first genius of the academy in recent years, couldn't even compare to him. Please read on, big guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the 5,000 starting coins reward from the one who doesn't want to drive and just wants to play badly. The 1,000 starting coins reward from the one who broke up and wrote a book to pay off his debts. The 500 starting coins reward from Boss Chen. The 500 starting coins reward from Yukan Liuli. The 200 starting coins reward from Yuluo. The 100 starting coins reward from Zuyan. Thank you for Wuiao Body. Kyan Li Zia Change. Qianlin abandoned me, then sad. Emperor Lin Kai. Zuan Huanged. My mom is Bingdis. Book friends 20180409175939511. I just come to read 12,138. Book friends 20220430111544517. Book friends 20190723121144212. Zia Gruo. Book friends 20230524002116693. Years of infatuation. Sorrow kill. Wai Chang'e. Blood moon can meng. Book friends 20210130160846819. Just want. Book friends 150,101,212,632,857. The end of life 817. The European Emperor dog killed. Heavenly Prime Minister Metatron. Ink Bamboo Fish. War History Lovers. Book friends 20170816093221578. Kunguni. 1 year old in the sound of firecrackers. Book House Dog and Other Big Guys monthly tickets. Chapter 53. It's actually him? Li Si saw that Camus seemed to have guessed something, so he didn't say much. Anyway, he was doomed to die today. Then tell me, you are also a smart person. Realizing that he had provoked a terrifying enemy and was facing a situation where he had no chance of survival, Camus smiled bitterly and shook his head. He didn't even bother to care. Li Si knew the adult's plan and asked about their specific identities. Don't you want to say it, or can't you say it? Li Si looked at Camus with interest and asked directly. It was a pity that he didn't know the relevant necromancy spells, otherwise he would have taken out his soul and asked questions. Camus seemed to be extremely depressed by Li Si's blow and nodded in despair. It seems to be the second one. I don't know if it is the priest's cautious precepts or the wizard's secret seal. No matter which one it is a gold level power, and it is not something that I can break by force now. But I can try a tricky way. Is the person who ordered you King Morton Feast? Camus shook his head. Yes. Li Si's eyes lit up. It seemed that the restrictions on Camus only prohibited him from revealing certain specific information, rather than the broad restrictions that prohibited the disclosure of irrelevant information. However, even with weaker restrictions, it still takes some tricks to get the information you want. Is it Duke Ada? Shake his head. Is it Duke Ram? Shake his head. Is it Trade Milvian, the commander of the 1st and 2nd Legions of the Kingdom? Shake his head. Is it Croshalassi, the president of the 1st Chamber of Commerce, Feast Chamber of Commerce? Shake his head. Li Si rubbed his temples. Although Camus was so frustrated by the huge blow that he cooperated with him quite well, the big figures he thought of were not him. No hurry, no hurry. Think about it carefully. Who else did he miss? Li Si paced back and forth in the laboratory, thinking about who else was suspicious among the high-level officials in the kingdom. Suddenly, Li Si had a flash of inspiration in his mind, and immediately turned to ask Camus, is it the second prince, Aten Feast? Camus, who had been shaking his head just now, suddenly stiffened and stared at Lisi motionlessly. Lisi looked at Camus like this, his eyes suddenly condensed, and he already knew the answer he wanted. Jatan Fis. The face of a serious middle-aged man with blonde hair and a majestic appearance emerged from Lisi's mind. Yes, this can explain that he has enough strength and status to influence all parties in Fis, concentrate on preparing all kinds of materials, influence the decision-making of the kingdom, and plan to detonate the war. Lisi knew this person in his previous life as the most outstanding and most popular prince among the heirs of the kingdom at that time. He also played an important role in the subsequent all-out war on the Fanal continent. So when the Blood Rose Princess Taia Fis came out of nowhere to inherit the throne in the later period, it also caused a great shock, and many people were quite puzzled. However, when Taia Fis showed her legendary warrior strength, all kinds of storms disappeared at once. In this world, power is everything. As an extremely rare legendary powerhouse from aristocratic descendants, it is no longer Taia who needs the position of King Fis, but the entire kingdom of Fis needs Taia to become the queen. However, new doubts surged in Lisi's mind. Why did Artan Fis do all this? If his secret plan to assassinate the nobles was exposed, it would not be a trivial matter. He would be abandoned by the entire aristocracy. So, as long as he is not discovered, it will be fine. I can't believe that such an upright person would do such an extreme thing. Lisi looked up at Camus, who had a gloomy face, and asked, "What else do you want to say? I'll give you time." Camus opened his mouth, smiled bitterly, and swallowed his words of begging for mercy. They are all smart people. Camus certainly knows that Lisi will never walk out of here alive. After all, he really knows Lisi's trump card now. But the price is his own life. How could Lisi, such a thoughtful person, fall into his hands? It seems that after serving you, I lack the caution and patience I had before. Camus couldn't help but feel deeply bitter, and it was useless to think about it anymore. Lord Artan, you seem to have really chosen the wrong person. Seeing that Camus had nothing to say, Lisi was too lazy to talk nonsense with him, and recited the spell. The third ring spell, Death Ray. A grey-white ray directly hit Camus, who was unobstructed. He didn't say a word, and the whole person seemed to fall apart and slump down on the chair. His skin turned pale under the influence of the undead energy, and his body had no vitality. Lisi, who killed someone for the first time after his rebirth, did not waver at all, as if he had become very skilled. Then Lisi fired several burning hands, completely destroying Camus's body without leaving a trace. Lisi had naturally got Camus's storage ring, but he saw that there were less than 100 gold coins and an intermediate staff in it, and other than that, there were some sundries. It seems that, in order to target him, Camus has really emptied all his savings. Lisi didn't care about these spoils. After all, getting the true identity of the mastermind from Camus was the biggest gain. On Jido Street, the guard specially sent by the adventure group Villa informed Yazan that Lisi suddenly had something urgent to do and could not come today. Yazan did not care. It was not an urgent matter anyway. It was just that, after communicating with his father, he still wanted to confirm some things with Lisi. Yazan remembered the scene in his father's study yesterday. "Father, these are what Viscount Lisi Kane told me. I think it is very likely to happen." Ducard, Fuchsis Hard, who had a head full of white hair and a somewhat old and gentle face, but still looked very energetic, sat behind a large brown chestnut table. He did not look at Yazan, but lowered his head and played with an exquisite quill pen in his left hand. It seemed that the fine lines on the quill pen had a unique attraction. Yazan knew that this was a little habit of his father when thinking, so he stood aside and waited quietly. After a while, it seemed that the elderly Ducard finally appreciated all the lines on the quill pen, and then he slowly said, "Yazan, do you think what our Viscount Kane said is true?" This was obviously not a questioning tone. Yazan sorted out his thoughts and said, "It should be true. The information I told Lisi was all news that I had heard before, but seemed to be unrelated. But if the possibility of a war breaking out is taken into consideration, then, yeah." Fuchsis responded, not knowing whether he agreed with Yazan's opinion. In fact, he also had a vague sense of it. After all, as the leader of the court nobles and the king's confidant, Ducard could see much more than Yazan and Lisi. But the question is, who exactly wants to touch this hot potato? Please read on, brothers. This is very important for children. Thank you, thanks. Chapter 54 Unlucky Lisi. If there is someone pushing it secretly, who do you think it is? Fuxisi asked calmly. Father, I. Yazan shook his head. In fact, after hearing Lisi's intelligence, he didn't sleep all night, thinking about who would do such a thing to promote war. He went through all the possible names in his mind, but he didn't find anyone who was the most suspicious. Okay, no need to guess. Fuxisi smiled, took out a precious cigar produced in the south from the brown wooden box, and slowly cut a smooth notch with a small silver scissors. After lighting the cigar with a match, Fuxisi was not in a hurry to put it to his mouth, but just held it in his hand, quietly feeling the grey-blue smoke produced by the burning cigar floating in the air, and asked, "Why do you want to stop the war?" "Because many people will die," Yazan said uncertainly. He had never been on a real battlefield. Indeed, wars are not without casualties, but you also need to see what you will gain. Like you and Lisi said, the monarch of the kingdom of Bertich in the east is incompetent and the officials are corrupt. If it weren't for the Church of the Gods, the kingdom would have occupied it long ago. If the kingdom has an outlet to the sea in the east, what does that mean? Do you understand? Fuxis looked at his most outstanding youngest son and suggested, that would be very good for the development of the kingdom, but, Yazan said in an uncertain tone, you can also see that the kingdom now needs war to seek change. Some costs are borne, and the attitude of the Church of the Gods has also changed. Duke Harder suggested. So, father, are we just going to stand by and watch, or even promote the outbreak of war? Of course not. Fuxis stood up, walked to the window of the study, and said slowly, our Hard family is deeply trusted by His Majesty the King. Why is that? Then without waiting for Yazan to answer, Fuxis continued, because we always follow the king, and obey the orders of the king. Do you understand? Yes, father. Yazan hesitated for a moment, and asked softly, so His Majesty the King does not want to start a war? Fuxis did not answer, but continued, so, what His Majesty the King does not want to see, is what we must stop. The question now is, how will they make His Majesty the King agree to start a war? Yazan thought about it carefully, and shook his head. Fuxisi paced back and forth in the study, and finally looked up, and said to Yazan, since it was Viscount Kane who told you, then go ask him, if he has any other news. After a pause, Fuxisi smiled and said, you should also express the gratitude and sincerity of the Hard family. After all, you are an interesting little guy who can tell you such a confidential matter. Yazan shook his head. It was always a headache to talk to the old man about serious matters, and it would not be tiring to explain it clearly. Looking at Ya rolling around on the sofa in the living room with the little moon spirit leopard, his temples ached again. Why did the wise king leave the task of taking care of the princess to me? I felt much more tired in the past 6 months than before. Yazan, what are you looking at? Yada on the sofa raised her head alertly, and found that it was Yazan who was looking at her with strange eyes, and asked, no, I just feel that the little moon spirit leopard is about to be bullied to death by you. No way. Ziohui has always liked me. Yaya hugged the little moon spirit leopard tightly, but did not notice that the little moon spirit leopard had a burnt expression. Elena was not at home, and it could not escape Yaya's clutches. Yazan, what do you want for lunch? I'm hungry. Okay. Yazan stood up helplessly and went out to a nearby restaurant to buy lunch. Thinking of bringing special food for the little moon leopard, Yazan couldn't help but sigh. I really don't want to be a nanny. On the other side, Lisi walked out of the basement of the Kane family mansion with a calm face, and said to Elf and others who were guarding outside, just now it was just a thief who wanted to kidnap me. I have killed him. Do you understand? I understand, Master Lisi. Welf and several others responded quickly. Well, if someone really asks, say so. Lisi nodded and raised his foot to go upstairs. Suddenly, Lisi stepped on the air and couldn't even maintain his balance. He hit his head on the hard wall beside him. Master. Welf was shocked and hurriedly helped Lisi up. As a result, he accidentally didn't control his strength well, and with a crack, Lisi's right arm was directly dislocated. Lisi's eyes twitched wildly, and he took a breath. There was a bump on his head and his arm was dislocated. He was in so much pain that he couldn't say a word. Seeing this, Welf didn't dare to move for a moment and was full of questions. This shouldn't be the case. As a golden warrior, how could he not even control his strength? Moreover, Master Li Si had been training for a long time. How could he dislocate his arm just by supporting himself? After a few seconds of trance, Li Si, who woke up from the pain, quickly used his uninjured left hand to signal Welf and others to retreat. He held his breath, pressed his dislocated arm, gritted his teeth, and exerted force. Click. Li Si frowned and looked a little pale after restoring his dislocated arm, but even so he didn't dare to ask Welf and others for help. He had realized what was wrong. Looking at his panel prompt, unlucky state, duration remaining 70 hours and 10 minutes, it was painful. How can I get through the remaining 3 days? Li Si didn't expect the negative effect of Arcadia's good luck brooch to come so quickly, and he almost fainted. What should I do? I don't dare to move now. Li Si had a headache. There were dangers everywhere around him. It felt like the stairs would collapse if he stepped on them, and he would fall down if he walked up to the roof of the second floor. He couldn't just stand here all the time. Maybe a brick would fall from the top of his head and hit him directly on the head. Feeling the burning pain on his forehead, Li Si held his breath deeply and walked up the stairs tentatively. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Li Si didn't dare to be careless with every step and focused all his attention on controlling his body and observing the surrounding objects. Welf and others behind him looked at Li Si's strange movements, but what happened just now made them dare not ask, for fear of startling the young master again and causing a big disaster. The stairs that usually take 1 minute to walk up, Li Si slowly moved for 10 minutes this time. He had to stop and observe the surroundings every time he took a step to see if the bricks on the top of his head were loose and if the stairs under his feet were damaged. Finally moved to the hall, Li Si breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he was careful, he could still avoid bad luck. Just when Li Si was thinking about where to go and wait for the unlucky effect to end. "Ah, master. I made a toast fruit pie as you said. Please try it." The maid Rosie saw Li Si standing there and ran towards Li Si with a piece of hot fruit pie in surprise. There seemed to be a puddle of water on the ground that had not been wiped dry. Rosie slipped, and the fruit pie in her hand flew directly out in Li Si's horrified eyes. Fortunately, it flew towards Li Si. "Unlucky, unlucky, unlucky, unlucky. Please read on. Crab. Thank you." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. Camus is such a nice guy! Exclamation mark. On the third day, at the Kane family mansion, Li Si lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling with lifeless eyes. God knows how he survived these 3 days. He stood there and was covered in the face by the maid's hot fruit pie. He wanted to use magic to block it, but encountered an elemental collapse accident. Now, he has all the internal and external injuries. He can't even eat in peace. He chokes every 3 mouthfuls of food. The most outrageous thing is that he can choke even when drinking water. Li Si even suspects that he has mutated somewhere. Fortunately, the subsequent bad luck is relatively mild. He just bumped his little toe when walking and got burned. However, for the sake of caution, Li Si did not conduct arcane research and physical exercise in these 3 days. If there is a small problem at this time, it will be really fatal. Don't make yourself missing arms and legs. Li Si has been lying in bed meditating these days. Anyway, there is nothing to do. Yazan has also informed him. It is good to practice and accumulate more experience points. Li Si jumped up from the bed, stood on the floor, and looked at the chair leg beside him with lingering fear. It made Li Si understand that no matter how well you exercise, your little toes are still fragile. Oh, it seems that there is a system prompt that I haven't checked. Li Si called out the system panel. Limited challenge task trigger. Goal: defeat Silver Mage Camus. Reward: depends on the completion of the task. You use the death ray to cause fatal damage to the target. You killed Silver Mage Camus LV51. You gain 200,000 experience points. You defeated the Silver Mage Camus with a weak advantage and completed the limited challenge task, Judgment, cross-level challenge. Judgment passed, reward increased. Judgment, all-out battle. Judgment passed, 70%, reward slightly increased. Judgment, hidden. Judgment passed against a strong enemy of the same profession, reward greatly increased. Task completion rate 200%, reward being distributed. You gain 600,000 experience points. You gain 200 gold coins. You gain the expertise, intermediate fire element affinity, spellcasting genius, primary, concentration, and meditation. You gain the skill, advanced elemental shield. You complete the milestone, the second step of the strong gold level. You gain the blueprint, short distance directional magic teleportation array, primary. Damn, it's colorful light. Big bang. Lee Si's eyes were almost blinded by the light. Is this the reward for completing the limited challenge task alone? It's so delicious. Lee Si now wanted to pull the system out of his body and give it a big kiss. Haha, it's a good thing that I didn't open the panel when the unlucky effect was on. Otherwise the rewards I drew would be rubbish. Lee Si thought very idealistically and happily clicked on each reward to check it out. Intermediate fire element affinity. Your affinity for fire element particles is further improved, and you gain a 30% damage bonus when using fire spells. At the same time, you are immune to negative effects such as fire poison and fire element infection. Spellcasting genius. Primary. You have a unique talent in the field of spellcasting, and the spellcasting time is reduced by 10%. The spell power is increased by 10%, and your speed of learning and mastering spells is slightly improved. Concentrate and calm. Hard experiences have tempered your state of mind. When you are meditating or studying spells, your mana recovery speed increases by 20%, and you are more likely to enter a state of concentration and no distractions. Advanced Elemental Shield, a 4th ring spell that forms an elemental shield around you to resist 300% intelligence plus 10% mana damage. At the same time, the shield value is increased by the user's elemental affinity. Cooling time 2 minutes. Consumption 5% mana. The second step of the strong gold level. Proof of a strong person. You rely on your own strength to defeat the enemy across levels, and you have taken a big step forward on the road to legend. Reward 20 free attribute points. 20% probability to resist negative status. Short distance directional magic teleportation array. Primary. A special magic array drawing is recorded. You can learn the magic array recorded in the drawing through the drawing, or use it as a one-time prop. It is worthy of being a reward from a silver mage. This time it is much better than the reward from Dyson's mission. They are all good things that can directly improve your strength. Needless to say, intermediate fire element affinity and spellcasting genius, primary, are the embodiment of every major spellcasting talent, which can directly improve Lee Si's power in using fire-related spells. But all of Lee Si's elemental affinities are currently low level, and there is still a long way to go. Spellcasting genius is a specialty that can directly enhance one's combat power, especially the effect of reducing the casting time. Even a primary specialty is quite practical. Concentrate and calm is a relatively special specialty. It seems that Camus obtained this specialty when he first entered school and studied hard. It can improve his efficiency in meditation and spell research. I have to give a thumbs up to Camus' hard work. This specialty should be very helpful when he studies Arcane. Lee Si said that such a specialty should be given to him. Advanced Elemental Shield is a skill that every silver mage must learn because its effect is very practical and powerful, which saves Lee Si the effort of learning. The second step of the strong gold level and short distance directional magic teleportation array, primary, have very clear effects, and Lee Si likes them very much. Hey, Camius is such a good person. I should have been gentler at that time. Lee Si felt a little guilty, not realizing how much he had gone too far by exposing Camius completely. Camius, get lost. After opening the panel again and enjoying the fresh and hot expertise and skills, Lee Si gathered his thoughts and began to think about his current situation. This time, Lee Si was surprised to learn from Camius that the mastermind behind the scenes was the second prince of the kingdom of Fez, Artan Fez. After all, after the eldest prince died in an accident, the second prince Artan, as the heir to the kingdom, should not touch these very sensitive things now. A smooth transition and taking over the throne are what this prince should do most. As for the subsequent counterattack of the Blood Rose Princess, it was completely force majeure. The fact is that before Tear appeared, Artan's position as the crown prince was extremely stable, and he had begun to assist the elderly king in handling some government affairs. Therefore, although this prince has no power in his name, from another perspective, his strength is enough to influence half of the kingdom. For example, the Fez Chamber of Commerce, the first chamber of commerce in the kingdom, is the private property of the Fez family. Its financial resources and power are so strong that they can completely affect the prices of bulk commodities such as food and weapons, but it will not alert others. This prince is usually very low-key, which is why Lee Si did not think of this prince at the beginning. Moreover, after the end of the Total War, Prince Yatan never appeared in public again. But why did he target me and specially arrange Camus to test me? With his current power and influence, there is no need to worry about the assassination. There are no twists and turns. Is there any other hidden secret in the assassination of the Holy Festival? Lee Si's right hand fingers rose and fell in turn, tapping the table gently. Although there are still many puzzled places, Lee Si feels that he is getting closer and closer to the truth of the matter. Thank you for the support of the readers. Tingai is very grateful. Crab. Chapter 56 Future Direction. Although there are still many things that are unclear, I feel that I'm getting closer and closer to the truth of the matter. Lee Si frowned, put aside his considerations about the second prince, and turned to think about improving his own strength. Recently, he completed a silver level crusade commission, and with the experience reward for defeating Camus across levels, it is enough to raise his level to above level 40. This has exceeded Lee Si's expectations. It seems that he should be able to break through level 50 and become a silver mage before the start of the Holy Festival. What's more, he has newly acquired many powerful skills and expertise, and the planned secret treasure Acacia's good luck brooch has also been successfully collected. It stands to reason that there should be nothing to worry about at the moment, but there is indeed a problem in front of him, and it is very important for his future. That is the Arcane subsystem. As Lee Si developed more and more exclusive arcanes, he also gradually deepened his understanding of the entire Arcane subsystem. Lee Si can be sure that his Arcane subsystem has changed greatly compared to the one that game players had in his previous life. In the previous life, players used the Arcane subsystem, which was more of a matter of luck, casually adjusting the magic patterns and elemental particles in the spell model to piece together a new spell model. It can be said that there is no technical content, and almost every new arcane is developed by luck. But Lee Si found that the Arcane subsystem he had was different. Maybe it was because he followed himself to the real God of Revelation game. In the process of developing arcane spells several times before, Lee Si clearly felt that each spell model had its own internal rules, and it was not a disorderly, messy, and logical piecemeal like in the previous life. When Lee Si used the Arcane subsystem, he seemed to really feel the characteristics of each elemental particle, the burst of the fire element, the softness of the water element, the agility of the air element, and the heaviness of the earth element. And in the spell model, Lee Si really came into contact with the underlying logic of the spell model. As long as he flicked it lightly, the magic patterns and elemental particles would be arranged and combined according to his will. He also understood the source of power of each spell model. Why can the spell model of the fireball spell condense the fire element to form a fireball and attack the enemy? How does the spell model of the elemental shield condense the power of the combined elemental particles to form a shield to resist the enemy's attack? Lee Si felt that only when he understood all the secrets could he truly master the power of each spell. The affinity between different elemental particles, why the magic pattern can better conduct magic power and stimulate the characteristics of the elemental particles, etc. These are just the most basic content. The characteristics of the four basic elemental particles of earth, water, fire and wind, and how to constrain them in the spell model are enough for Lee Si to rack his brains. not to mention those higher level applications, such as the compatibility of magic pattern sequences and elemental particles in multi-element combination magic, how to use basic element to pry the power of higher special element, such as light element, death element, space element, etc. These made Lee Si feel like he was back in the hot and painful second semester of the third year of high school, with a mountain of textbooks and tutoring materials on the table in front of him. And there is another very big difference, that is, in the previous life game, learning professional knowledge is just a change in character data for players, not really learning the spell knowledge of how to cast Fireball. Lee Si is different. When he obtained Bobaka's arcane notes, he found that relevant knowledge really appeared in his mind. But there is also a hidden danger, that is, the knowledge that appeared in his mind, he just remembered it, but could not use it skillfully. For example, let's say Lee Si had never been exposed to mathematics before. Suddenly, the god of mathematics stuffed the knowledge of 2x3 = 6 into Lee Si's mind, and Lee Si also remembered this knowledge. If the question 2x3 = is placed in front of Lee Si can immediately give the answer 6. But what if the question becomes 3x2 =? Lee Si will react for a while before giving the answer 6. The more complex the knowledge, the more difficult it is to master it thoroughly. Therefore, Lee Si's current magical knowledge in his mind is still at the level of knowing, and there is still a long way to go before he can master it. Knowledge is power for a mage. For an arcane master, knowledge is life. If Lee Si does not seek to understand it very well and only pursues the use of corresponding spells, it is nothing. But in the field of Arcane, Lee Si wants to go on this legendary long step and go smoother and farther. Just knowing it is too far away. So now there are two paths in front of Lee Si. The first path is to develop Arcane by luck, just like those people who have Arcane subsystems in the previous life. The advantage is that you can give full play to the advantage of not consuming experience points and quickly improve your strength and arcane level in a short time like before. The second path is to sort out and master every bit of magic knowledge from the beginning, starting from the basics, and slowly climb to the palace of knowledge. This path will undoubtedly slow down your pace in the arcane path in the early stage, but it will make you walk more steadily and also allow you to go further. Oh, do I still need to choose? It must be the second path. Lee Si is not only trying to survive in this upcoming chaotic world, but also to climb to the legendary realm that no player has touched in the previous life. Hard? Tired? Boring? Nothing in front of the temptation of mastering power. Do it. Isn't it just a case of working too hard? The hard-working Lee Si, would be afraid of this? Kangwang City, Fisi Street. In a remote alley, an inconspicuous two-story building stood quietly. The only difference between this building and the surroundings is that there is a 4-meter high wall without a gate that surrounds the entire building tightly, as if something is hidden. The alley was seldom visited, and when pedestrians passed by this building, they ignored it without exception, as if there was no building here. Suddenly, a man in a black cloak turned out from the alley next to it, breaking the tranquility of this alley at this time. The man in black looked around and found that no one was approaching. Then he quietly walked to the side of the wall and tapped the wall a few times at a specific frequency. After a short wait, the surface of the wall in front of the man in black suddenly rippled and then slowly faded. The man in black walked straight through the wall. When the man in black quickly passed through the wall and entered the yard in front of the small building, two shield-like figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Two guards in grey armor stopped him. Judging from the aura of these two people, they should be silver warriors. The guards did not ask any questions, but just stared at the man in black quietly. It seemed that, as long as a word or a move was wrong, the two would immediately kill the man in black on the spot. This is the author's sorting and clarification of Lee Si's future path. Maybe it was not introduced clearly before. It may be a little complicated. Please forgive me for the customary request to read it again. This is very important to Tingayu. Thank you. Chapter 57 Prince Yatan's Plan. The man in black naturally knew the rules, and even if he was familiar with the two men, there would be no exception. He took out a silver token from his ring and took off his hood. The face of an ordinary middle-aged man appeared in front of the guards. His face was slightly pale, as if he had lived in the dark for a long time without exposure to sunlight. One of the guards took the token and returned it to the man in black after confirming that it was correct. "No problem. Long time no see. Robert. Long time no see. Where is the Lord now?" The man in black named Robert took the token and asked casually. "The information from the Feast Chamber of Commerce has just been delivered. The Lord should be checking in the study. You can go directly." "Thank you." Robert nodded to the guard and walked towards the study on the east side of the second floor of the small building with ease. When Robert stood outside the study door, he wiped his hands uncomfortably on his clothes and then gently knocked on the door. "Come in." A steady and magnetic baritone came from the study. Robert was relieved and carefully pushed open the door and walked in. Facing the door was a spacious walnut desk on which were neatly placed all kinds of books and documents, and the morning sun was shining brightly. The blonde middle-aged man sitting at the desk leaned back slightly, frowning as he looked at the information sent by the Feast Chamber of Commerce, and ignored the man who came in. Robert saw this, but did not interrupt him, but stood by with his hands down, lowered his head slightly, and waited silently for the man to finish reading the remaining materials in his hand. Not long after, the blonde man put down the paper in his hand, took a sip of the mellow black coffee beside him, raised his hand, and rubbed his tired eyes. "Lord Jatton, you don't have to work so hard," Robert said softly, his face full of respect and worry. "The plan has basically been arranged, just waiting for the arrival of the holy festival. And you haven't had a good rest for more than half a year." Yes, the blonde man sitting at the table was Jatton Feast, the second prince of the Feast Kingdom. Jatton waved his hand nonchalantly. "The more critical the moment, the more we cannot let down our guard. I don't want the hard work of several years to be ruined." Then Jatton looked up at Robert in front of him and asked, "How are the various plans being implemented?" Jatton arranged Robert to be mainly responsible for connecting with the various forces in the plan and reporting to him regularly. In order to facilitate the operation, this place was specially arranged in a secluded place next to the palace as a place to collect intelligence and coordinates centrally. Therefore, the protection here is also quite concealed and strict. In addition to the external illusion array and silver guards, there is also a gold level strongman hiding in the dark. When Robert saw that they were talking about business, he straightened up quickly and said like he knew everything. "The procurement and storage of materials by the Feast Chamber of Commerce and its subordinate chambers of commerce have been basically completed. What remains is the finishing work. At present, it has not attracted the attention of other domestic forces or other countries. You have already seen the specific quantities of materials. Food, weapons, and equipment, medicines and other materials are enough to support the kingdom's foreign wars for 5 years. We have obtained the promise of Duke Ram and Duke Bynum, and have begun to reorganize the armaments. If the kingdom declares war, they will immediately attack the kingdom of Burditch. I have arranged people to communicate secretly with some court nobles. At that time, they will also express support for the kingdom to declare war on foreign countries, but we need to support them to go to the front line to obtain military merits and fiefs. Because of the existence of Duke Hard, in order to avoid leaking the news, we did not contact most of the court nobles. But as far as we know, most of the remaining court nobles also support foreign wars. A small number of conservatives will not oppose the kingdom's revenge after learning that their colleagues were assassinated by assassins from other countries. Last year, the kingdom of Burditch was dissatisfied with our country's request to lower border taxes. After sending people to secretly lobby and guide, it is now preparing to send the kingdom's gold-level assassin Bloody Blade to infiltrate our country and wait for an opportunity to retaliate, just as you expected. The assassin Bloody Blade has been awakened through special communication. At that time, he will not go to the Duke of Ram's territory, but will come directly to Kangyang City to obey your arrangements, Lord Jatton. Robert excitedly narrated every progress of the plan, while looking at the man in front of him with awe. This has taken into account almost all possibilities, and as long as there are no accidents, the result will inevitably develop as Lord Jatton expected. The kingdom of Burditch blatantly assassinated its nobles at the holy festival. The kingdom of Fez declared war on the kingdom of Burditch. The kingdom of Fez won the war, and Lord Jatton ascended to the throne. Jatton did not show any joy, and his expression was calm, as if everything would develop as he expected. The Burditch gang is really useless, rotten to the core from top to bottom. If it weren't for the Church of the Gods, Yatyan simply commented on the magical operation of the Kingdom of Burditch. Indeed, who would have thought that the ace assassin they have secretly cultivated since childhood turned out to be your hidden chess piece, my lord. Robert complimented just right. Artan rubbed his brows and ignored Robert. Recently, he always had a palpitation feeling, which had never happened before. Is there something he has not considered? Leaning back in his chair and thinking about it, Artan suddenly asked Robert, have the targets for the Holy Festival been determined? Yes, sir. Robert replied quickly. They are Viscount Kane, Baron Leo, Baron Lucas and Baron Allen. On that day, these four will be arranged to stand in the area 15 meters to the left of His Majesty the King. But, Artan raised his eyes. He didn't like this feeling of uncertainty. He stared at Robert and asked, tell the truth. Robert quickly lowered his head and said, according to your request, Baron Leo, Baron Lucas and Baron Allen have been tested, and there is nothing unusual, but Viscount Kane's side was handed over to Camus, and there has been no progress. Camus? Yatyan had the impression that he was a very outstanding student in the Royal Academy of Magic of Fez in recent years, and he had broken through to the Silver Mage before graduation. What was even more rare was that he was born in a commoner family, and he was one of the mage geniuses recruited by himself in recent years, so he also had certain expectations for him. Senior mages are very rare helpers, and in the entire kingdom of Fez, there are only a few more in the Magic Academy. As the first heir to the kingdom, he only had one gold level mage working for him. I wanted to give him a chance to train. Can't he even accomplish such a small thing? Yatyan was a little disappointed because he had allocated a lot of resources to Camus. Hurry up and make sure there are no accidents. Yatyan stood up and stood in front of the window without saying much, just instructed Robert lightly. Yes, sir. Robert agreed immediately, and then when he saw that Yatyan had no other instructions, he quietly turned around and walked out of the study, gently closing the door. Yatyan looked out the window silently. The neighborhood not far away had begun to be noisy, but his eyes were not focused on it. He just murmured in a complex tone, Taya, please read and collect. Dear readers, a new adventure is about to begin. I hope you like it. Chapter 58, Favor. In the morning, Lisi got up normally, dressed normally, and went downstairs normally in the Kane family mansion. This ordinary daily life made Lisi, who had experienced all kinds of bad luck in the past 3 days, burst into tears. Lisi has also noticed that the bad luck in the past 3 days is not a big threat to him. At most, it is just a bump or a minor injury, but it is easy to cause psychological shadows. Lisi touched his forehead, which had already subsided with lingering fear. However, in the past few days, Lisi also had some speculations about the effects of lucky people and unlucky people. Arcadia's good luck brooch seems to be able to force himself to get good luck. That is almost what he wants within 5 seconds through the effect of the power of fate. But at the same time, he also needs to bear the corresponding bad luck. But the same amount of bad luck will continue to act on him within 3 days, and the intensity of bad luck will be much milder. In any case, after using the good luck brooch this time, he also saw the power of this secret treasure, which can save his life at a critical moment. However, it is better to use this secret treasure less often, unless it is necessary. I don't want to experience this unlucky feeling again. Lisi dressed neatly and went into his kitchen. After replenishing all kinds of fresh ingredients in his storage ring, he patted his cook's broad shoulders encouragingly and prepared to set out to find Yazan. After all, he had been dragging it for 3 days. Even pigeons can't fly so slowly. This time, Lisi learned a lesson. He asked Welf to follow him when he went out and sent him directly to the adventure group villa on Jeddo Street. He waved and asked Welf to leave and not to accompany him. After all, in terms of security, Welf is not as safe as Yada. Welf was quite worried. After all, the young master had just encountered an assassination, but Lisi sternly refused to protect him personally. He could only leave with his head back every 3 steps. He didn't even have the mood to go to Jinbei Lane to taste flowers. Lisi, who had come a few times and was already quite familiar with him, didn't hesitate and pushed the door and walked into the villa. because Lee Si got up early today. Elena, who got up early to feed the little moon spirit leopard, was in the living room. At this time, the elf in green home clothes had not yet tied up her long light golden hair, letting it hang vertically at her waist. At this time, she was no longer as heroic as when she was dressed as a ranger, but had a more gentle temperament. The little moon spirit leopard had no time to appreciate the beauty of this moment. It lowered its head to nibble on the unknown monster meat on the plate, and occasionally turned its head to lick a few sips of milk on the dish beside it, seizing the time to enjoy the happiness and beauty when the female demon was not there. Good morning, Elena. Good morning, Lee Si. Why did you come so early today? Elena, who had not dressed up yet, was a little embarrassed and smoothed her long hair behind her to the front of her. It just so happens that I have nothing to do, so I came here early to make some delicious food. After all, I'm a chef. Lee Si winked at Elena and walked into the kitchen to start busying himself. Occasionally cooking a meal by himself is also a kind of relaxation for Lee Si, who was immersed in reading yesterday. After Lee Si served the steaming trio of flour and fruitcake and white pine soup to the table, along with a few portions of pre-prepared apple taiyaki, Yazan and Yair also got up. You're here, Lee Si. Come to my room later? Yazan greeted Lee Si. No problem. Lee Si nodded in response, which was also the main purpose of his visit today. Yair didn't care what the two grown men were doing in the room all the time. The taiyaki on the table had already attracted her attention. She picked one up and took a bite. It's so hot. The freshly baked taiyaki was still a little hot, but even so, Yair was reluctant to spit it out. The sour and sweet applesauce filling, paired with the rich milky crust, really made people reluctant to waste a bit. Yair, who had just gotten up, had not yet washed up. Her long red hair was messy and draped over her shoulders. Her thin pink pajamas were also a little wrinkled. It seemed that Yair didn't sleep well last night. Elena also particularly liked this taiyaki, eating it in small bites, and it was even more popular with her than the trio of flowers and fruits cake. Lee Si also enjoyed the fruits of his labor. Making and tasting food is also a hobby of his besides working hard. After a delicious breakfast, Lumbo was still hungover. Elena took the still confused Yair to dress up. After Yazan cleaned up the mess and washed the dishes, he invited Lee Si to his room. After the last communication, the two of them became more familiar with each other. Yazan was not polite and directly moved a chair for Lee Si and sat down first. Yazan filled a glass of grape juice for Lee Si. After all, neither of them was a dwarf who loved alcohol, and drinking in the morning was a bit too exaggerated. After the last chat, I went back and told my father directly. Yazan was quite frank and explained the situation right away. Ducard? Lee Si nodded. It seemed that Yazan was also very clear that this kind of thing could not be solved by the power of him and himself. Yazan hesitated and said, Father should have noticed something, but he is not as sure as you. Lee Si's heart is as clear as a mirror. I know all the plots that follow. Of course, it is not fake. But the old Duke Hader was also alert. He is really the pillar of the kingdom of Fez. It is not simple. My father means that there should be someone pushing it secretly, but it is certain that the person is not His Majesty the King. As I guessed, the King of Fez does not want to go to war with neighboring countries in the near future. Lee Si secretly pondered that, although he now knew that the mastermind behind the scenes was the second prince, Artan Fez, it was not appropriate to talk about this matter directly with Yazan. With Artan's style of doing things, he would not leave any handle for himself. Now he mobilized all his strength to investigate. At most, he would find some suspicious signs, but he would never be involved. Even if Camus is still alive, it would be useless. This matter still needs to be more cautious. Take it slowly and don't rush. While Lee Si was secretly thinking, Yazan asked, so my father wants me to ask you again. Lee Si, do you have any other clues? Yazan looked at Lee Si and said sincerely, please, Lee Si, this is very important to our Hard family. If there is anything that needs the Hard family's help in the future, you can come to me at any time. Lee Si was a little surprised. This sentence was quite powerful. Yazan said this on behalf of the Hard family, which was equivalent to owing Lee Si a big favor. If I had known earlier, with the strength and status of the Hard family, if I had asked, I could even raise my title to Earl. Lee Si pondered for a moment and said to Yazan, in the past 6 months, the price fluctuations of some food and weapons have been irregular. It may be that someone has secretly purchased them on a large scale. I got the news that there are some unusual movements in the kingdom of Burditch in the east, and we need to be vigilant. Lee Si's words were naturally targeted. The price fluctuations were the news from Mora, and it was easier to verify, but no one noticed it. As for the Burditch kingdom, if Lee Si remembers correctly, the first country that the Fez kingdom declared war on in the previous life was the Burditch kingdom. The reason was that the Burditch kingdom sent assassins to assassinate many of the kingdom's nobles during the Kangwang City Sacrifice Festival. Thank you for your support. Thanks, by the way. Please read on. Chapter 59 Exclusive Mission. Jedo Street, Adventure Group Villa. Lee Si and Yazan came out of the room very satisfied. Both of them highly recognized and praised the exchange just now. Both sides put forward very constructive suggestions and agreed to continue to maintain a good communication mechanism between the two parties. In human terms, both of them got what they wanted. Yazan learned new information about the mastermind behind the scenes, and Lee Si got the promise of Duke Hader's family. Yazan also gave Lee Si a diamond VIP card of the Kangwang United Chamber of Commerce. It is one of the top 5 chambers of commerce in the kingdom. It was jointly established by various court nobles in the kingdom. It is also quite large in scale, better than the Golden Vine Flower Chamber of Commerce of the Mora family. The VIP cards of the Kangwang United Chamber of Commerce are also divided into silver, gold and diamond levels according to their levels, and Yazan prepared a diamond VIP card for Lee Si. Lee Si holds this diamond VIP card and will enjoy a 30% discount in the Kangwang United Chamber of Commerce. This is from all kinds of daily necessities, firewood, rice, oil and salt to advanced magic equipment. You can enjoy this discount, which is almost equivalent to the Chamber of Commerce losing money to provide services. Someone who is interested can even make money from the Chamber of Commerce with this diamond VIP card. This shows Yazan's sincerity. You should know that the discount that Mora arranged for Lee Si in his own Chamber of Commerce is only 15%. Lee Si and Yazan came to the living room and saw Yaya and Elena sitting on the sofa. Yaya was sitting there obediently holding the little moon spirit leopard tightly. Elena took a wooden comb and combed Yaya's long red hair like a little lion. Lee Si walked to a chair beside him and sat down. He took out a book on the characteristics of fire element and the application of magic patterns from the ring and began to study. What Lee Si has to do now is to resort out his magic theory and foundation, consolidate his mastery, and improve. Seeing this, Yaya, Yazan and others did not disturb Lee Si and walked outside to start today's training. The sunlight gradually became stronger and the sun rose above his head. Just as Lee Si put down the big book in his hand and was about to go into the kitchen to prepare some simple food, Yazan led a middle-aged man in the uniform of the mercenary guild in. As soon as the man saw Lee Si, he came up to him enthusiastically and said, "This must be Mr. Moriarty, who has just joined the Yaya Adventure Group. He is indeed young and promising, and extraordinary." Lee Si shook hands with the overly enthusiastic man and asked, "Hello, who are you?" "Hi, I forgot to introduce myself." The man patted his head and said, "My name is Miller, the director of the mercenary guild responsible for task dispatch. Nice to meet you." "Me too. Nice to meet you, Mr. Miller." After Lee Si greeted him, he threw the troublesome task of reception to Yazan and went to the kitchen to prepare lunch. When the food was ready, Lee Si found that the director named Miller had left. Yaya and Elena also finished their morning exercise and sat obediently at the table waiting for Lee Si to feed them. Even Lumbo, who had not been seen all morning, sat aside. After putting the food on the table, Lee Si asked Yazan, "Where is that Miller?" "He left. He came here to inform the guild that there is an exclusive mission assigned to our adventure group." "Oh, an exclusive mission?" Lee Si sat down at the table, and everyone started eating. Yazan tapped the table lightly and said, "Lee Si is here too. I will tell you about the guild's exclusive mission. Let's see if we can accept this mission." While tasting the food, everyone listened to Yazan's words with some curiosity. After all, it must be very difficult to let the mercenary guild directly assign a mission. It seems that the guild believes that this commissioned mission cannot be completed with the strength of ordinary mercenaries, and the time is so tight that it needs to be completed by a designated mercenary group. Arthur organized his speech. South of Kangwang City, 2 days journey by carriage, there is a place called Kola Village. According to intelligence, a few days ago, the villagers of Kola Village discovered that there was something wrong with the plants in the area near the village. The growth rate was very fast, and some large trees even grew more than 1 meter tall overnight. The villagers of Kola Village were very panicked, because their village was about to be submerged by the forest. After reporting to their lord, the lord had no solution, and could only ask the kingdom for help. Because the cause of these anomalies has not been found, the kingdom has entrusted the task of preliminary exploration to the mercenary guild. The guild has classified it as a secret realm exploration mission, and designated our adventure team to complete it. If we accept this mission, we have to register with the guild tomorrow and set off directly. The mission time is relatively tight. By the way, according to the local lord's early exploration intelligence, there seems to be traces of suspected undead creatures, which need attention. Everyone, tell me, should we take this mission? Yazan told the known information, and looked at his teammates gathered around the table. Yao was the first to respond positively. Take it. I've only heard of undead creatures in stories, and I haven't killed them yet. Lisi nodded. This is true. As a kingdom with a relatively stable social order, in order to prevent the bones of the people from being transformed into undead after death, all residents need to be buried in the cemetery of the Church of Dawn after death, and no additional fees are charged. This is a hard and fast rule, even if you live outside the city. This is why there are very few undead creatures in the territory of the Kingdom of Fez. The priests of the Church of Dawn are responsible for the maintenance and blessing of the cemetery. The power of the God of Dawn has a strong lethality to undead creatures, which is something that the Church of War, Wisdom and other churches cannot do. Of course, the Church of Dawn is also happy to take on this profession, which is of great benefit to the spread of the faith of the God of Dawn in the Kingdom of Fez. Therefore, as the most important base of the Church of Dawn in the Final Continent, professionals such as death mages really stay away from the Kingdom of Fez. When you walk on the street, you may see a big bald man in a white robe shouting, "Praise the glory of the God of Dawn." Then he will send you to hell with a hammer. Yes, that's right. The weapon used by the priests of the Dawn Church is a one-handed hammer, and they are all muscular men. In my previous life, I wondered if the God of Dawn was also a muscular man with 12 abdominal muscles. Unfortunately, the statues of gods worshipped in the Church of the Gods are very blurry, and their body shapes and appearances are not clear. But then again, after my rebirth, I haven't come into contact with anyone in the church. While Lisi was wandering in the world, he felt that it was better to stay away from those muscular and violent priests of the Dawn Church. Elena said, if it is the plants that are growing fast, then it should be the effect of increased vitality. But why are there undead creatures? It's very strange. Yes. Yazan nodded and said, so the mercenary guild suspected that there might be a new secret realm in Kora village, so they assigned us to explore it. The third round of recommendations will be on next week. Thank you all for your support. Tingai kneels to thank you. Thanks, please read it again. Chapter 60, a new secret realm. So what kind of support did the guild give this time? Elena asked. If it was a task that the guild designated to accept, some assistance would be given according to the task objectives and actual conditions, which was equivalent to a part of the reward paid in advance. 10 bottles of high-level holy water from the Dawn Church, 3 Dead Strike spell scrolls, and 2 Command Undead spell scrolls. They are all auxiliary items for the undead. Lisi nodded and said he was very familiar with these. The high-level holy water from the Dawn Church cost 100 gold coins each. He just bought one a few days ago to awaken the secret treasure good luck brooch. Dead Strike is a first level spell, and Command Undead is a second level spell. Generally speaking, a first level spell scroll is worth about 10 to 50 gold coins, and a second level spell scroll is about 100 to 200 gold coins. The support from the mercenary guild this time is quite powerful. Yes, this time the guild considered that they might be facing mainly undead creatures, so the guild basically prepared these countermeasure magic items. Yazan paused, snatched the last chicken leg from Lumbus without changing his expression, and said, so the requirements of the guild this time are also very clear. it is best to investigate the cause of the abnormal incident in Kola village and deal with it as much as possible. If not, after the relevant information is clearly investigated, go to the nearest mercenary guild to inform the kingdom army and the Church of the Gods, and let them deal with it. I have no objection. I agree. Elena nodded. I agree too. Yaya raised her hand high to indicate. I have no objection. Lisi naturally had no objection. Such an important task meant another large amount of experience, which would allow him to break through to the Silver Mage faster. Moreover, if there is really a new secret realm formed there, it would be interesting. In the previous life of the game Divine Revelation, various special secret realms would appear from time to time on the Fennel continent. Some of them were handed down from ancient times, some were formed for various special reasons, some were special alien spaces, and some were directly on the continent. These were collectively referred to as secret realms. The rules and scenarios in the secret realms are also different. You may encounter snow in the sky, but there is a world of ice and fire with hot magma under your feet, or you may encounter broken floating islands and mountains. There are common creatures such as goblins in the secret realm, and you may also encounter terrifying existences such as ancient dragons and evil gods. After the player descends, if the player passes a secret realm, this secret realm may be recorded by the system and turned into a secret realm crystal, which can be entered and challenged repeatedly by the player. However, it is not easy to challenge and pass the secret realm. In the previous life, most of the secret realm crystals were in the hands of large guilds and were regarded as extremely precious resources for their own players to reuse. A few players who have secret realm crystals have made a lot of money by renting out crystals. Therefore, Lisi was very curious. If this was really a newly generated secret realm, would he get the secret realm crystal after clearing it? Thinking about it, he was a little excited. Lunbus didn't even look up. He didn't care about these team matters. He just had to stand in front of his teammates during the adventure. Seeing that everyone agreed to take this task, Yazan nodded, and he naturally agreed. After all, you may encounter rare undead creatures, which is also a very rare experience for Yaya's growth. Helping Yaya experience various battles to increase her knowledge and gain experience is a task assigned to me by His Majesty the King. Although Yaya has amazing talent, she has been receiving teachings in the palace to break through to the gold level. If she does not experience the baptism of actual combat, it is almost impossible to break through to the legendary level. I'm also a genius of the kingdom. Yazan, who felt that he was almost becoming an old mother, was a little worried, and then decided not to think about these sad things. Then it's decided. Tomorrow we will gather at the mercenary guild and head directly to Kola village. After accepting the mission, everyone should make preparations today. Yazan finally arranged that he would also go home to tell his father the latest news he got from Lisi and arrange for someone to investigate secretly. Everyone had no objection. With the commission coming, they would naturally be nervous and not so leisurely. After lunch, Lisi did not plan to continue reading and went back to the mansion directly. After all, this mission might take a long time and he also had some things to arrange. After returning home, Lisi asked Joyce to come over and said to the old butler who always maintained his elegance, I have something to do recently and need to leave for a while. You can arrange the things in the mansion. Let Welf and others strengthen the surveillance of the mansion. If there are any special situations, write them down and wait for me to come back. Joyce frowned. Master Lisi, if you are going on a long journey, it is best to bring Captain Welf with you to ensure your safety. It is not very convenient, and you will be with others. Don't worry about safety. Lisi waved his hand and explained to the old butler. It seems that you are with those mercenary companions? That little girl is indeed quite capable. Joyce thought secretly and asked calmly, where are you going, master? Do you need anything else to prepare for you? Let the kitchen prepare a week's worth of food for 10 people in advance, and some fruit bread. I want to take it away, and the rest is not needed. Yazan had already agreed with him that they would prepare other adventure supplies such as tents, and he only needed to arrange delicious food. Joyce nodded and left to prepare various items according to Lisi's request. Lisi returned to the room, called out the system, and threw all the current experience into improving his personal level. After all, he had to explore the unknown secrets and the more strength he could improve, the better. Your personal level has been improved. 3940. You get strength +2, agility +1, intelligence +2, charm +1, mystery +1, endurance +1. Your personal level has been improved. 4243. You get strength +2, agility +1, intelligence +2, charm +1, mystery +1, endurance +1. Feeling the new power pouring into his body, it was like a full body healthcare. Lee Si almost cried out in comfort. After a few seconds of relaxation, Lee Si called out the panel to check his updated attribute data. Lee Si's panel, I won't be lazy anymore, for fear of being scolded. His intelligence and strength attributes have increased by 8 points, with intelligence reaching 114 points and strength reaching 91 points. By the way, I added the 23 attributes from the gold milestone, the second step of the strong, to my intelligence, and my intelligence has reached 154 points. Few suppressing the feeling of becoming very smart. Lee Si nodded, very satisfied with the recent progress. Sure enough, I still have to thank my classmate Camus. Thank you all for reading. This is the last adventure story of Lee Si and his team. I hope you like it. Chapter 61. The Strange Forest. The next morning, Lee Si packed up early. With the help of the cute little maid Rosie, he put on a sturdy and convenient adventure suit and walked towards the mercenary guild with Welf. Wearing a wizard robe while adventuring in the wild is too pretentious. If Lee Si had the strength to sweep everything, he might do so, but now he decided not to. At the entrance of the mercenary guild, Lee Si waved to Welf to leave on his own and walked straight into the bustling mercenary guild. Here. The others had arrived in advance, and Yana was waving and calling Lee Si. Just waiting for you. Lee Si walked to the side of the few people, and Yazan said to him, take out your mercenary ID card and register. We will set off. The carriage is ready. Lee Si took out his Moriarty ID card and made a simple registration with the guild staff. It was a pity that the broad-minded Miss Leia was not on duty today. Lee Si took over his mercenary ID card. The information on it had just been updated. After completing a mission to defeat a monster with Yara's adventure group, he became a formal bronze level mercenary. Let's go. Seeing that Lee Si had also completed the mission registration, Yazan called everyone to set off together. The carriage that had been rented in advance was already waiting at the entrance of the guild. Because this trip was a little farther and needed to stay overnight in the wild, Yazan also rented a more spacious and comfortable carriage. The destination of this trip was in the south of Kangwang City. As soon as he got on the carriage, Lee Si took out a large spell book and began to study and learn. From time to time, a few magical lights flashed in his hands. Now Lee Si is seizing every bit of time to absorb and consolidate the foundation of magic knowledge. Yada and others also stayed quietly in the carriage to recuperate and accumulate strength for the upcoming exploration of the secret realm. This commission may not be as easy as the last time to defeat the monster. However, there were no more extraordinary monsters blocking the way during this trip. It seems that the relatively wealthy south of the kingdom is more powerful in sweeping and conquering monsters. The 2-day trip passed quickly for Lee Si, who was studying. In addition to the daily rest and preparation of food to relax himself, he devoted almost all his time to studying spell books. For Lee Si, as long as he has a clear goal, working hard is a small matter. Several teammates also tacitly did not disturb Lee Si, and they all saw that Lee Si was in a stage of rapid improvement in strength. At noon on the 3rd day after departure, the carriage finally arrived at the destination of the commission, near Kola village. Because the commission was urgent and the situation was clear, Lee Si and others did not take a detour to the territory nobles, but went directly to the abnormal area. According to the map provided by the mercenary guild, Kola village should be at the end of this road. But strangely, a large forest suddenly appeared in front of the dirt road where the carriage was traveling. The trees were lush and green, with thick vines between the trees. It was impossible to see what was behind the forest. Strangely, the dirt road that Lee Si and others passed by was lined with fields and wasteland, but there was no transition here. There was a row of trees more than 10 meters high blocking the road. It was as if someone dug out the center of the forest somewhere else and placed it directly on this land. The dirt road under their feet was suddenly cut off here. Seeing this, Yazan asked everyone to get off the car. Lisi and others also noticed the strange and dense forest in front of them, and they were a little surprised. What's going on with this forest? There shouldn't be any record on the map, right? Elena asked. For some reason, the elf ranger who was born close to nature did not feel a sense of belonging from this forest. It's strange. The map shows that if you go another 3 or 4 kilometers on this road, you will reach the village of Kola, Yazan said with a frown. Could it be that the plants mentioned in the intelligence grow rapidly? Could it be that this forest was formed in just a few days? Lisi looked at the emerald green leaves and green trunks of the forest in front of him, his eyes twitching, and said. Lisi felt that what he guessed should be true. This is a bit too outrageous. It's almost grown into a sea of trees in a few days. Good guy, is this the advent of the magical tree world? Something is wrong. Yazan pulled the restless Yaya back. This guy was eager to use his sword to chop down the big tree at the edge of the forest. This forest is full of weirdness. The task entrusted by the guild this time doesn't seem so simple. Just when Yazan was thinking about how to explore the intelligence, he saw EC slowly flying up from the ground and climbing to a height of tens of meters. How could I forget that there is a magician who can fly in the team? Yazan reacted immediately. After observing for a moment, Lisi landed. What did you find? Yazan asked directly, and everyone's eyes turned to Lisi. Lisi shook his head and said, about 10 kilometers ahead. It's all similar forests, nothing special. The only strange thing is that the area covered by this forest seems to be a regular circle. Lisi gestured. A normal forest rarely has this shape. Is that so? Yazan was a little worried. It seemed that if he didn't enter the forest, he wouldn't get any useful information just by staying outside. Hey, you guys. Suddenly, several figures ran from the right side of the dirt road, shouting loudly and shouting something to Lisi and others. Lisi looked at the few people. They were wearing standard armor and appeared here again. They should be the guards of the nobles of the territory. You guys, this forest is very dangerous. Don't go forward. Several people ran to Lisi and others breathlessly, and the leader said breathlessly, hello, we are the team designated by the mercenary guild to handle this incident. Here is the letter of authorization. Yazan took out the letter of authorization he received from the guild before setting off from his storage ring, handed it to the leader, and said, are you the people responsible for patrolling the surrounding area? The leader on the opposite side took the letter of authorization handed over by Yazan, checked it, and handed it back to Yazan respectfully. He saluted with a knight and said, hello, thank you very much for your assistance. I'm the Knight Child of the Lord Viscount Ross. Hello, can you tell me what happened in this area in the past few days? Okay. Child responded quickly. This is an elite mercenary group designated by the Mercenary Guild, which is much stronger than himself, a bronze warrior. It's like this. 5 days ago, Lord Viscount Ross arranged the guards to investigate and found that it was not something we could handle alone, so he directly sent people to ask for help from the kingdom. On the second day after the people who went to the capital left, the change happened. Please read it again. This is very important for children. Guess who the enemy is this time? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Dense Forest Exploration. Before that, although the plants near Kola village grew very fast, they were just weeds and crops. But that night it was different. Countless saplings broke through the soil and grew more than 1 meter tall overnight. There were even saplings in the homes of the villagers in Kola village. We felt something was wrong. After discovering it, we hurriedly moved all the villagers in Kola village out. These trees kept growing and taller, and the next day they became the forest we have today. We also thought about going in to check it out, and started clearing the trees around the forest. However, no matter how much we cut down, the trees returned to their original state the next day. We tried several times, and it didn't work. We didn't dare to just go into the forest. We could only guard around the forest and prevent irrelevant people from entering. We waited for support from the kingdom. Chilled told everything that had happened in the past few days. Arson frowned and asked. The intelligence said that undead creatures appeared. Do you know the situation? Chilled shuddered and said nervously, on the night we relocated the villagers, after everyone left the forest, we counted the number of people and found that 4 people were missing. We thought it was too dark and didn't dare to turn back to look for them. At that time, we organized the villagers to rest outside the forest and prepare to go to the viscount's castle early the next morning. As a result, in the middle of the night, I heard some movement in the forest. When I looked over, I saw several skeletons crawling inside. One of the skeletons even turned its head and looked at me. My companions and I were shocked. We quickly asked everyone to rest far away and never dared to approach the forest again. But we didn't see those things leave the forest. In the next few days, I came to check during the day and at night, but didn't find those things again. I also sent the information to the master. I saw it too. I was on guard with Captain Chilled at the time. Those skeletons were obviously human bones, and there were ghost lights next to them. Now a soldier next to Chilled also answered, confirming that it was not Chilled's hallucination alone. Skeleton? Yazin looked at Lisi with a questioning look in his eyes. Lisi understood and nodded and said, if it is true, it may be a newly transformed skeleton soldier, which poses no threat. Skeleton soldiers are undead creatures whose bodies are made entirely of bones. They can be said to be the lowest and most common undead creatures. But the appearance of skeleton soldiers also proves that something is wrong with this forest. In other words, have no threatening undead creatures been found yet? Yazan pondered in his heart and began to consider from which direction to start exploring this strange forest. Elena suddenly asked Chilled, you said you had cleared this forest before. Are the trees here different from those in other places? Chilled was stunned, recalled for a while, and said uncertainly, we didn't really pay attention to this at the time, but it should be no different from the trees in other places. We burned the wood we cut down as firewood. Elena nodded and stopped talking. Yazan also made a decision at this time. Since they were already here, they probably wouldn't get any valuable information if they didn't go in and explore. He said to Chilled, let's go into the forest to see what's going on. Please help take care of the carriage. Okay. Chilled quickly agreed. He was a little afraid to let him go into the forest, but it was no problem to take care of the carriage outside the forest. Yazan turned around, pulled Lisi, Yaya and others aside, and began to play the role of a team nanny. We still have to go into the forest to take a look. At least we have to explore the Cola village. This time when we go into the forest, Lunbus and I will take turns to lead the way in front. Elena will be responsible for observing the surrounding movements, and Lisi and Yaya will be in the middle of the team. Pay attention to support. Everyone nodded. Yazan's arrangements have always been reassuring. Then Lisi and others checked the items and equipment they carried with them again, and prepared to enter this strange forest. Yazan walked in front. This time he was wearing a bright white fine steel armor, emitting a faint holy light, which should have been blessed by the Church of Dawn. The sword in his hand flashed with a cold light, and the vines clinging to the forest were cut open, and gradually a path leading to the depths of the forest was cleared. Lisi and his companions kept their formation and gradually advanced into the depths of the forest. The deeper they went, the denser the trees became, and there was no blue sky above their heads. After advancing into the depths of the forest for an hour, Lisi and his companions only advanced less than 2 kilometers. Yazan waved his hand to indicate that they would temporarily make corrections on the spot, sheathed his sword, and said, did everyone find anything? To quiet, Lisi said while setting up magic warning around. Yes. Elena nodded in agreement and said, I can't hear the sound of insects and birds at all. Not at all. I have carefully observed along the way. Sure enough, there is a problem. Yazan nodded in agreement, and he also found this problem. Also, although the vitality of this area is overflowing, but Elena gently picked a bud from a big tree beside her and said, it feels a bit dead. The elf who has always been close to nature said a little uncertainly. Normally, lifeless and vitality are 2 completely unrelated words, but Lisi felt that they were very appropriate to describe the forest in front of him. And Lisi always felt that there was something familiar, but he was sure that he had never been here. Was there such a place in the game in his previous life? It shouldn't be. As a game player, it is impossible for me to not remember it. Just when Lee Si was knocking his head to recall where he missed it, others made new discoveries. This time it was Yaya who discovered the problem. Although Yaya was a little noisy at ordinary times, she was still very serious when performing the commissioned tasks. It was at this time that Lee Si could see some future style from her. Yaya used a sword to peel off the weeds under her feet, revealing the land underneath. It stands to reason that in the forest, because the tall trees block the sunlight, there were few such dense weeds under the trees. But this place was different, which made Yaya realize that something was wrong, so she cleared a piece of open space. Under the dense forest, it should be fertile and moist land. But the land under the feet of Lee Si and others was different. It was dry and barren. The land that was supposed to be dark brown had turned yellow and lost its vitality. Yaya swung her sword and dug down another meter, and found that the deeper she dug, the poorer the soil became. It seems that the reason why this forest is so full of vitality is that all the vitality in this land has been extracted. Elena squatted down, grabbed a handful of sandy soil and said. Lee Si also touched it, and frowned as if he noticed something. Something is wrong. It's a bit late. Please read on, dear readers. Chapter 63 The Calm Before Danger. There's something wrong with the soil here, Lee Si muttered. Although his research on necromancy was not profound, his perception was still correct. There is a faint smell of the dead in the soil here. So, this forest was forcibly born by the vitality extracted from the earth? Is this something that necromancy can do? Lee Si felt that his cognition was somewhat overturned. After thinking about it for a long time, he couldn't figure out how it was done, so he shared his findings with Yazan and others. When Yazan heard that there was indeed the influence of the breath of the dead, his face suddenly became serious. Such a vast area was infected by the breath of the dead. It was impossible to say that there were no high-level dead spirits. Yazan was silent for a while. Seeing that everyone had no other discoveries, he decided to continue moving towards Kola village. This time, it was Lumbus who opened the way. He easily swung his terrifying hammer and smashed all the vines in front of him into mud. Lee Si estimated that Lumbus's strength attribute points had exceeded 300 points. This might look really terrifying. The crowd moved forward very quickly, and Elena kept looking around. Although the forest did not give her a good feeling, the characteristics of the ranger still made her feel at home in the woods, and her light figure kept jumping among the branches of the trees. After moving forward for about 1 kilometer, Lee Si and others finally arrived at the destination of this trip, Kola village. What was presented to everyone was a dilapidated and desolate scene. Thick tree trunks emerged from the village houses, wantonly breaking through the roofs and walls, and stretching their branches to their heart's content, as if they wanted to enjoy the rain and sunshine. The roads and fences in the village were almost completely buried by green, and the silent and desolate scene seemed to silently tell that the village had been abandoned for decades. But Lee Si and others knew that this place was a peaceful place with curling smoke 10 days ago. What exactly caused all this? An alternate plane? A treasure? Or some powerful and strange existence? All of these were unknown. Lee Si and others could only disperse and search in Kola village to see if they could find any new clues. A moment later, Yazan, Yaya and others gathered at the entrance of the village again. None of them found any valuable information, but they were sure that Kola village was indeed temporarily evacuated, and there were still many things in the villagers' houses that had not been taken away in time. Yazan called Elena, who was on guard in the distance, over and asked in a cautious tone, "What do you think about this situation now?" "No, although I feel that this forest is very strange. So far, I haven't found anything else wrong." Elena put her fine golden hair behind her ears and said in confusion, "No, I just feel that the atmosphere here makes me uncomfortable." Yaya nodded honestly. After experiencing some things, she also realized that this matter was not that simple, and it was not something that could be solved by just chopping people with a sword. Rimboss said nothing, shook his hand to indicate that he had no idea and would listen to you all. Lee Si thought about it and said, "I didn't find anything unusual. Apart from the undead breath I just found, there are no traces of spells or quasi-spells in the village. I suspect that the cause of this change is not in the village." "What do you mean?" Yazan looked at Lee Si and asked. Li Si drew a circle on the ground with his jade staff and said, "Before entering the forest, I use the flying technique to observe that the radiation range of this forest is a circle. This situation is very rare, or it can't be formed naturally without the influence of external factors." Pointing at the center of the circle with a staff, Li Si expressed his thoughts. "I guess there may be some special item here, or some high-level magic circle, which formed this forest within its radiation range." Just what? Elena asked. She thought Li Si's guess might be true. The impact range is so wide, and the changes are quite amazing. If there is really such a thing, it is at least gold level power, or even stronger. And judging from the situation, it may be related to the energy of the dead spirits, and it is not ruled out that there will be great danger. "Do you want to go?" Li Si looked at Yazan and let the team's nanny make the decision. "Go." Yazan made a decision quickly. After all, so far, his team has not found any valuable clues, and how can exploring the secret realm be risk-free? Yazan is confident that his team is capable of dealing with gold level enemies. Legendary level? Then forget it. If there is really such a thing in this mission, it may not be safe, even if he withdraws now. What Li Si said makes sense. Let's go to the center of the forest and take a look. Everyone had no objection. After resting for a while to maintain their condition, they continued to head towards the center of the forest. Li Si cast the second level spell, Light Body Spell, on everyone to speed up the march and reduce physical consumption. However, the deeper they went into the forest, the more uneasy they felt. This was the first time I encountered such a strange situation. There were no enemies or targets. The surrounding forest was surprisingly quiet, with only the sound of Yazan cutting vines and trees. Li Si frowned. In his previous life, there were indeed many strange secret dungeons, some that killed people silently, some that were bizarre and could not find a way out. What had he not seen? But he had never encountered such a situation. Obviously, there was no change, and the detection spell that had been maintained did not give any warning, but there was an inexplicable pressure lingering in his heart, and it was gradually increasing with the passage of time. Li Si checked and found that this was not the influence of any spiritual spell, but purely from his own spiritual perception. Since entering this forest, this abnormal feeling has been lingering, which makes me a little irritable. Is this intuition warning me? Li Si looked at his teammates. Yao looked a little irritable, as if she was in the same situation as him. However, Yazan and Alina had no other expressions, but just cautiously explored the situation around them. Yao's expression seemed to feel the pressure. Was it really the influence of the gold level power? In silence, Li Si and his party finally came to the center of the forest. There were no trees in the area of about 10 meters in front of them, but a flat grassland. Apart from that, it was quiet and there was nothing special. Yazan's face was calm. Is it really not so easy to find the source? After an inspection, there were indeed no special items here. Even though Unbus dug nearly 10 meters underground, he did not find anything. Yazan had no choice but to choose to camp and rest on the spot. Everyone had no objection. If there was no clue, they could only waste time. If there is no abnormality, then just wait. I'm here to solve the problem. It would be better if there is danger. Only then can we find out what happened here as soon as possible. I was delayed by something today. Tingai kneels down to thank you for reading. Thank you guys. Thanks. Chapter 64, Maguire's Death Tomb. In the center of the forest, Yazan and his companions set up their tents on the grass and even lit a fire to prepare dinner, which was unusual. They were so leisurely that they seemed to be here for a picnic. But if you look closely, you can find that they never took off their equipment to relax for a while. Their weapons were also placed beside them, ready to fight at any time to deal with danger. Li Si had already set up several layers of early warning magic around the camp, ready for danger to come at any time. The whole team looked relaxed, but in fact, they were loose on the outside and tight on the inside, all of which were to seduce potential enemies to attack. Even when they rested at night, they ensured that at least 2 people were on guard. But soon Li Si and his companions realized that their defenses were completely meaningless. It was already the second day, and there was still no movement, as if this forest was really a paradise and there was no danger. What's going on? Yazan was also a little helpless, looking up at the sun that was about to rise in the sky. It had been almost a whole day since his group entered the forest, and they had stayed in the center of the forest for a night, but nothing had happened. Although he had been mentally prepared to deal with danger, nothing dangerous had happened, which made Yazan feel powerless, like hitting the air with all his strength. Unlike Yazan and Alina, Lisi and Yana were a little restless at this time. Lisi felt uncomfortable in his chest. The pressure when he entered the forest had been oppressing him as time went by. He felt that a disaster was coming. Yana's face was still normal, but her hand tightly holding the long sword showed that she was in a state of high alert at this time. Yazan noticed that Lisi's face was a little pale and asked with concern, "Lisi, what's wrong with you? Your face has been a little strange since yesterday. What happened?" Lisi hesitated for a moment, but was ready to tell his teammates about his unfounded feeling. Just as Lisi was about to speak, Lunbus and Arthur, who were sitting on the side and on guard, suddenly disappeared from the spot and disappeared. Lisi thought of a possibility and shouted to Yara and Alina on the side, "Be careful." Before Lisi finished speaking, his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot, accompanied by a dizziness. When Lisi opened his eyes, he found that he had come to a completely unfamiliar place. There was no light source around, and Lisi could only vaguely see the surrounding scene after his eyes barely adapted to the darkness. What appeared in front of him was no longer a lush forest, but a dark passage. The stone walls on both sides were covered with dust, and the air that had not been circulated for a long time was filled with the unpleasant and disgusting smell of corpses. Lisi shook his head and completely recovered from the discomfort of the space teleportation just now. He carefully checked the environment around him. Without using the flash spell, there might be potential dangers near him. Using magic lighting at this time would undoubtedly make him a living target. Lisi, who had rich experience in adventures in his previous life, would naturally not be unprepared. He carefully took out a piece of carved fluorite from the storage ring and looked around with the weak light it emitted, while also thinking about what was going on. What was that just now? Space teleportation? But Yazan and Yana were not by his side, so it was a random teleportation? What are the triggering conditions? And I'm underground now? The strong stench of corpses in the air undoubtedly indicated that this place was not a safe place. It was definitely unrealistic to wait for rescue. Lisi could only pick up the fluorite and look at the surrounding stone walls, hoping to find some useful information. Under the faint light of the fluorite, Lisi carefully checked the place where he was about to be. It was a square stone room. The walls clearly had traces of construction and polishing. The slightly weathered edges showed that this place had gone through a long time. Suddenly, Lisi touched a trace on the right wall that was somewhat different from the surroundings. He quickly brought the fluorite closer and looked at it carefully. This was a mark directly chiseled on the wall. The pattern was a one-eyed crow standing on a horizontal bone staff. Lisi's eyes widened. He was so familiar with this weird pattern. Isn't this the exclusive symbol of the secret realm, Maguire's Tomb of Death? Lisi had already put the fluorite back into the ring in his hand. He sat in the corner, his brain turning rapidly, and began to think about his current situation. There is a special sign of Maguire here, so I must be in the Tomb of Death now. Fortunately, I should be teleported to a safe area in the tomb now, which is better than being thrown directly into the monster pile. So is the forest, where I was before the secret realm, Dead Tree Demon's Lair. In the previous life of the game Divine Revelation, there are two types of secret realms that players can enter. One is to enter through the secret realm crystals obtained by the players. The other is to spend a limited number of times per week to enter the secret realm directly from the system exclusive entrance. As a bronze level secret realm, the secret realm of Dead Tree Demon's Lair is naturally entered and passed by many players. This secret realm is just an ordinary forest, but the monster that appears is a dead tree demon. This is a LV 3040 dead monster. It looks a bit like the tree spirit guard of the elf clan, but it is full of dead breath and can control the dead energy to attack. It is a monster produced after the forest is corroded and mutated by the dead energy. The boss of the secret realm is the LV45 giant dead tree demon, which is located in the center of the forest. After defeating the giant dead tree demon, the player can pass the secret realm of Dead Tree Demon's Lair. But what surprised the players at that time was that no matter how the giant dead tree demon was defeated or all the dead tree demons in the forest were cleared, the completion rate of the secret realm of Dead Tree Demon's Lair was only 99%. For a long time, no one broke through the last 1% completion rate. Some players even cut down all the trees in the forest, but there was no change. After a long time in the game, when the mainstream players reached the silver level, some players accidentally discovered the secret hidden in the secret realm of Dead Tree Demon's Lair. At that time, after their team defeated the giant dead tree demon and passed the level, they had nothing to do and suddenly had a whim to hold a party in the center of the forest. They ate and drank a lot and played various games. They stayed in the secret realm for a whole day in the game. Just when they were about to end the offline, they were suddenly teleported to a new hidden secret realm. The secret of the last 1% completion rate was dramatically solved. Who would have thought that the secret realm of Dead Tree Demon's Lair is actually connected to another secret realm, and the way to enter is to stay in the secret realm for a whole day, and the location must be in the center of the forest. And this special design was also complained by players as the bad taste of the game planner. As for this new secret realm, its name is Maguire's Tomb of Death. This book has been on the new book list for 30 days, and the final result is also quite good. It finally stands at 27th on the new book list and 2nd in the game category. Although it has only been a few hours, it also surprised Tingayu, a novice. Of course, there is a little fear in addition to the surprise. The readers have also pointed out some of Tingayu's shortcomings. I also realize that there are still many gaps. Thank you for your tolerance and support. But I will definitely continue to work hard and strive to create stories that satisfy the masters. Thank you. Chapter 65, Phylactery. After being discovered by players, the Maguire's Tomb of the Dead secret realm was also refreshed in the list of secret realms that players can choose from, and it is one of the higher level secret realms. This means that the challenge level of the Maguire's Tomb of the Dead secret realm is above level 100, and it is a dungeon secret realm that players are eligible to form a team to attack only after they break through to the gold level. Of course, there are also players who don't believe in evil and immediately organized a group of top masters to start attacking this secret realm. The result must be obvious. The whole army was annihilated. Even professional players joined in. According to the information posted by the participating players in the forum, Maguire's Tomb of the Dead is actually a maze deep underground, with a harsh environment and gloomy and terrifying. The monsters wandering in the tomb are mostly zombies, ghouls and skeleton soldiers, with a challenge level between LV 110 and 120. They fell down without even seeing the final boss. After reaching the gold level, the players finally conquered Maguire's Tomb of the Dead after going through untold hardships and countless group wipes. The difficulty of this hidden secret realm is ridiculously high. The monsters wandering in the maze are okay. Although the challenge level is relatively high, they are all dead creatures without wisdom, and they basically appear alone, so it is not difficult to attack. But the bosses of this secret realm are a bit outrageous. There are 3 in total. They are the Headless Knight Lorens at LV 130, the Vampire Angela at LV 150, and the final boss Lich Maguire at LV 170. When liches were still human, they were mostly mages. They were affected by darkness and undead energy, and were transformed into undead with magical abilities after death. Some liches were transformed after death. These liches practiced necromancy during their lifetime. After their death, they were transformed into liches due to their own sins, resentment, and spells. Others were living magicians who voluntarily pursued eternal life and became liches. According to the research of data party players, Maguire should have been a golden wizard who touched the legendary realm during his lifetime. When his life was about to run out, he chose to transform himself into a lich, a being with eternal life. This maze is the place where Maguire chose to perform the lich transformation ritual for himself. Unfortunately, although Maguire's lich transformation seemed to be successful, it was actually a failure. Although his body was successfully transformed into a lich, there may be some problems in the transformation ritual, and Maguire's consciousness was completely destroyed. In other words, after the successful transformation, the Lich Maguire has been sleeping in this mausoleum for an unknown period of time without giving birth to self-consciousness. Because of the super magic circle arranged by Maguire, this mausoleum maze has been absorbing and gathering darkness and undead energy. Various undead monsters have gradually appeared in the mausoleum. The two small bosses, the Headless Knight Lorenz and the Vampire Angela, were born after that. The secret realm of Dead Tree Demon's Lair should be located above Maguire's Tomb of Death, buried deep underground. For some unknown reason, the super magic circle running in the Tomb of Death gradually affected the ground above, and finally formed the secret realm, Dead Tree Demon's Lair. Therefore, the forest before was the nest of the Dead Tree Demon, which was still in the process of formation, and the Dead Tree Demon in it had not yet been born, so he did not recognize it at all. After all, apart from the existence of the Dead Tree Demon, it was really just an ordinary forest. Lee Si thought a little depressed, and gradually sorted out the cause of this change. It should be the teleportation array of the mausoleum that teleported him, and Yazan and others in. After all, this mausoleum is deep underground, and can only be entered through the teleportation array. Trouble. If I were still the fully armed, level 180 gold mage in my previous life, I would even have the confidence to solo this secret realm. After all, clearing this dungeon can get a very precious and powerful expertise. In my previous life, I led various bosses through the customs for a fee, and made a lot of money. But now I'm just a pitiful and weak bronze mage, and I don't know when I can revive the glory of my previous life. I don't know where Yazan and Yana were teleported to in the mausoleum, and Lee Si has a headache. With their strength, they can still save their lives when they encounter wandering undead monsters, but it is too difficult to find them in this tangled and intricate maze. Except for the few players who entered the secret realm for the first time in the previous life, the players who directly entered the secret realm from the system interface in the later period will not be randomly teleported, so there will be no such trouble. Lee Si rubbed his temples silently in the dark. Now he can only rely on himself. There were two ways to attack this dungeon in the previous life. The first was to defeat the Headless Knight Lorenz and the Vampire Angela separately, and then kill the awakened Lich Maguire to pass this dungeon. But now Lee Si obviously does not have this ability. Even if he pulls Ya, it is estimated that it will be the same. He can only give up this most direct and violent method. Then there is only the second method, destroying the Lich Maguire's life box. This is another way to pass the level discovered by the master of the previous life. Although it is more cumbersome, it is also the only way Lee Si can think of. It's just that I'm not in the game. I don't know if I can still reproduce that kind of operation. Taking a deep breath to calm down, Lee Si stood up from the dark corner, took out the jade staff and cast a series of spells. Second ring spell, Cat's Grace, Owl's Wisdom. Third ring spell, Invisibility. Third ring spell, Breath Covering. Third ring spell, Arcane Vision. Third ring spell, Sharp Ears. Lee Si did not spend his magic power on protective spells, because the lowest level monsters in Maguire's Tomb of Death also have gold level strength, and he could not withstand any attack at all. Fortunately, the perception of these undead monsters is very weak, and they have no wisdom. In the past life, someone chose to conceal his own breath to avoid fighting with the monsters wandering in the tomb. Cat's Grace, Owl's Wisdom, enhances his agility and intelligence attributes. Invisibility and Breath Covering hide his body and breath, reducing the chance of being discovered. Arcane Vision and Sharp Ears enhance his perception and detect wandering monsters in advance. After getting ready, Lee Si touched the Arcadia's good luck brooch still on his chest, and he felt more confident. After making all the preparations, Lee Si carefully left the stone chamber where he was, and entered the maze corridor outside, which led to an unknown place. Unlike the dark stone chamber, there were crystal stones emitting blue light at intervals on the walls of the corridor. With the faint light, Lee Si could see 20 to 30 meters away. The most urgent task is to determine where he is in the mausoleum. Only after the location is determined can the subsequent operations be carried out. Lee Si moved forward cautiously in the passage, trying to make his steps as light as possible without making a sound. Suddenly, Lee Si stopped and stared at the front. In the shadow, there was a tall and thin figure moving towards him. "Thank you for your support, everyone. Please support Tingai on Tuesday and click to the last page. Crab. Chapter 66. Headless Night Lerens. Lee Si immediately held his breath, without turning around, and slowly moved his feet, to retreat to the back. No matter what the monster in front of him is, it is an existence that he cannot afford to offend at the moment. Of the 36 strategies, running away is the best strategy. Lee Si, who was retreating tactically, tried to reduce his presence as much as possible. The additional breath shield and invisibility were only 3 ring spells, and the rank was not high. Although the perception of the undead monsters was very poor, Lee Si decided to be careful. Lee Si tried to keep a safe distance from the monster in front of him. After retreating to a fork in the maze, he quickly turned into the passage in another direction. After retreating to a safe enough place, Lee Si stopped and wanted to observe the unknown monster from a distance to see if he could find some useful information. After waiting for a long time, a dull sound of footsteps came from the passage in the distance. Danglong, danglong. It was as if the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground echoed in the passage. Lee Si concentrated his mind and stared at the fork in the road in front of him. A dark shadow entered Lee Si's sight. Fortunately, mystical vision helped Lee Si see the figure of this monster clearly. This is a 2-meter tall skeleton, with bones as white as jade and full of luster. It is obviously just made of bones, but it gives Lee Si a strange feeling of power. The pale soul flame is beating in the skeleton's eye sockets, but he is wearing a black full body armor. In his hands, he tightly grasps a long sword and shield emitting cold light. The skeleton soldier did not notice Lee Si not far away, and continued to walk forward dully, wandering aimlessly in the passage. Lee Si raised his eyebrows. It's a skeleton warrior. Fortunately, he didn't find me. It seems that, as long as I'm careful, I still have a good chance of moving freely in the mausoleum. And the bigger gain is that Lee Si knows where he is. The White Bone Evil Temple. Only here in the mausoleum are there skeleton warriors. As the most common and lowest level existence among the undead monsters, the skeleton soldier is not useless. Its characteristics are low cost and large number. As the favorite cannon fodder of the death mage, the skeleton soldiers have no self-thoughts, work hard and never complain, and can work until the soul fire is completely extinguished. However, not all skeleton soldiers are low-level soldiers, and there can be powerful ones among them. The skeleton warrior is one of them. After countless years of continuous strengthening of the energy of the dead, the hardness of their bones is comparable to that of fine steel. At the same time, the armor and weapons they possess have become indestructible after being nurtured for a long time. Unfortunately, these weapons and armor emit rich dead energy and are not suitable for human use. Otherwise, this is equivalent to a set of luxurious magic equipment. Speaking of which, if it is the Evil Bone Temple, then my position should be at the bottom of the entire mausoleum. The entire Maguire's Tomb of Death is mainly composed of maze passages and nests of various dead soldiers. The Lich Tower, where Maguire is located at the top of the entire maze, which is also the core of the maze. The magic circle that assists Maguire in the transformation of Lich is located in the Lich Tower. At the same time, the maze also contains the cemetery where zombies are, the ghost house where vampires are, and the Dark Palace, where the Dark Knight exists. Among them, the Headless Knight Lerens usually wanders around the Dark Palace, while the vampire Angela stays in the ghost house. If it is a normal secret realm strategy, you don't need to worry about other monster nests. As long as all the monsters and bosses in the ghost house and the Dark Palace are killed, the Lich Maguire will be awakened and then appear to attack the player. Killing Maguire at this time will clear this dungeon secret realm. Lee Si, who chose another way to pass the level, has the ghost house as his goal this time. In the Mausoleum Cemetery, Elena is surrounded by green airflow, and she moves between rows of dark grey and broken tombstones, her face a little pale. Behind her, a group of zombies who keep screaming follow closely. Their bodies are like cast iron, emitting a pitch black luster, and the muscles, blood vessels, and bones in the broken wounds are clearly visible. The zombies limped and chased Elena. They seemed to be walking slowly and heavily, but they were not far behind. What was going on? Elena could not suppress her panic. She and her teammates were teleported to this cemetery, and then they were chased by this group of zombies. She really couldn't figure out what was going on. She also tried to fight back, but when she saw that the arrows surrounded by wind element only left a white mark on the zombies, she knew that this was not a monster she could deal with. Fortunately, the speed attribute of zombies is the slowest among all extraordinary creatures. Elena can still use the surrounding environment to slowly maneuver. It depends on whether she can find her chance to get away. The dwarf warrior Lumbus sat quietly in a dark stone room, holding a hammer and shield in his hands. He just woke up and witnessed a tall black armored skeleton soldier passing by the door of the stone room. The strong sense of danger made Lumbus understand that he was no match for these monsters. Rumbles knew very well that once he was discovered and entangled by these monsters, he would not be able to escape at all with his slow speed and could only face death. The best choice was to stay where he was and not go anywhere. After all, those monsters did not seem to enter this stone chamber. Honorable and powerful Lord God Moradin, please point out the direction for the loyal believers to move forward. Even though he knew that the hope of staying where he was and waiting for his teammates to rescue him was very slim, Rumbles did not give up. While being alert to the movements around him, he silently prayed to the dwarf Lord God Moradin in his heart. In the dark hall, this church-like building stood quietly in the darkness, but there was no sense of holiness. The twisted patterns and mottled bloodstains proved that this was not a good place. If you look up, you will find that at the top of the hall, there is a figure lying on a small platform. Yazan did not dare to breathe heavily. His limbs were numb after being stiff for a long time, but he still did not dare to make a sound. Yazan, who had just been teleported here, had already seen a dozen black knights standing quietly in the hall 20 meters below him. Yazan recognized it at a glance. It was clearly a dark knight riding a giant undead horse. These cavalrymen, symbolizing death and terror, were the absolute elite units among the undead creatures. Yazan faced the most dangerous situation since he became a professional. Without complaining, Yazan tried to reduce the noise as much as possible and delay time, hoping to have a chance to escape. At this time, just outside the Dark Palace, Lisi didn't know that his teammates were so close to him, but he was very careful to stick to the stone wall and slowly move to the side. As for the reason for being so cautious, not far away from him, there was a figure that was obviously much taller than the average Dark Knight, slowly pacing and wandering. The evil aura emanating from his body made Lisi feel uncomfortable even at such a distance. The strange thing was that the body of this Dark Knight was empty and had no head. Lisi certainly knew who this was. The Headless Knight Lerens. Please read on for the big guys. Please click to the last page. Tuesday's reading is very important to Tingayu and Lisi. Chapter 67 Camus's second nice guy card. Headless Knight Lerens. Although he has no self-awareness like the Lich Magua, he hates life by instinct. As long as he finds the trace of the intruder, he will chase and kill him until he dies. With Lisi's current strength, it is impossible to escape. Therefore, Lisi paid great attention at this time and held his breath for fear of disturbing this boss. This also led to Lisi and Yazan almost passing by each other without noticing each other. Of course, it would be useless to find each other. The Dark Palace is too dangerous. Lisi has no chance to rescue Yazan. Finally, he stepped into the other end of the Dark Palace. Lisi breathed a sigh of relief. It was really exciting. This feeling was completely different from the game in the previous life. Although the game characters controlled by Lisi in the previous life had many exciting and thrilling experiences and even faced legendary strongmen and abyss monarchs, Lisi was more of a bystander at that time. After all, the game characters can be resurrected again. But now it's different. Although the game system has also traveled to this world, Lisi has a vague feeling that he may have completely become a member of this world. In other words, Lisi can no longer revive and pretend to be dead like in the game of his previous life. If he dies here, he will be really dead. Lisi doesn't think that if he dies in the Lich Tomb, he will have a chance to be resurrected. Therefore, this feeling of walking on the edge of a knife makes Lisi feel particularly exciting. Adrenaline is secreted rapidly, and his perception becomes extremely sensitive. On the way to the secluded house, Lisi has encountered dozens of monsters of all sizes. The Headless Knight Lerens gave him the strongest sense of oppression. Can we only say that it is worthy of being a gold level boss? just standing there. It's like the Otaku Lisi in the previous life faced a more than 10-meter high tiger. But it's not completely without gain. As a gold level secret realm, Maguire's Tomb of Death will naturally have various treasures. Lisi, relying on his memory, found a grey high level magic gem, Dead Soul gem, and an unknown rib in a secret room of the Bone Evil Temple. Although the name of unknown rib doesn't look very good, it is a top level Dead Soul material. It can not only be used to strengthen skeleton type Dead Soul monsters, but also can be used as a sacrifice to try to summon high level Dead Souls such as bone dragons from the underworld. It is a very precious treasure for the necromancer. Unfortunately, each secret realm will only have real treasures when it is cleared for the first time. After that, when entering the same copy again through the secret realm crystal, there will only be rewards such as experience points, contribution points and expertise skills. So Lisi didn't get these treasures when he cleared the level in his previous life. The information about these treasures was still seen by Lisi on the game forum. However, Lisi is not greedy. He can get these treasures easily without life-threatening situations, but the most important thing now is to conquer this secret realm as soon as possible. After passing the Dark Palace, his destination, the secluded house, is behind. Standing in a passage not far from the haunted house in the maze, Lisi looked ahead helplessly, feeling a little worried. All the monsters he had encountered before could be bypassed, but what about the two blood servants guarding the haunted house? Lisi's small body couldn't rush through. A dilapidated attic that often appears in horror games is located in the open space in front of Lisi. The walls are covered with dust, and the original color can no longer be seen. Even the dark door is only one door left. From the missing side, you can only see the deep darkness, just like the abyss, which hides endless dangers and terrors. Lisi's eyes fell on the two bats hanging on the upper edge of the door. The dark appearance is almost integrated with the door frame. However, Lisi dared not ignore these two little things. These are the high-level blood servants of the gatekeeper of the haunted house. Players who are attacking the secret realm for the first time often fall into the surprise of the two blood servants at the door of the haunted house after successfully conquering the headless knight Lerens. Although the level of these two blood servants is not strong in this mausoleum, the strength of the gold level is too strong for Lisi, and it is impossible for him to enter the secluded house through normal means. What a trouble. In the previous life, I always crushed it normally. Who would have thought that I would enter this secret realm again at the bronze level in the future? So I never knew whether there were other ways to enter it. But the hope of passing the level is in it, and I can't just give up like this. Lisi touched his nose in distress. Is there any way to avoid the two blood servants at the door? Throw something to attract attention? No, it's okay now that they are asleep. Once they wake up, with the blood servant's sensitive sense of smell and speed far exceeding his own, Lisi has no confidence that he can enter the door smoothly in such a short time. Go in through the window on the other side of the attic? No, there are vampires in every room of this attic. Going in by myself is like delivering tequila to their door. Dig a hole in the ground? Not to mention that the noise was too loud, which could easily disturb the sleeping blood servants and vampires. More importantly, Lisi didn't think that the structure of the haunted house could be destroyed by himself. This seemingly shabby attic was a very important place in the maze, and Maguire must have spent a lot of effort on it. Fly over and land on the roof. It's the same. In the end, you can only climb in through the window. The only difference is that the vampire who is grateful for the gift of nature has moved from the first floor to the second floor. Is there any other way? Lisi rummaged through his space ring to see if there were any props that could come in handy. Suddenly, Lisi's hand stopped rummaging, and a rolled up parchment appeared in his hand. Oh my god, how could I forget that there was this thing? Lisi's face showed joy, as if he had found new hope. Short distance directional magic teleportation array. Primary, a special magic array drawing is recorded. You can learn the magic array recorded in the drawing through the drawing, or use it as a one-time prop. With this, you can teleport directly to the haunted house. Camus is such a good person. In addition to being surprised, Lisi did not forget to send Camus a second good guy card in his heart, and gave a big thumbs up. Although it was a pity to use it directly as a disposable prop, Lee Si was not yet able to understand the magic teleportation array recorded on it. But if he didn't use it now, it would be a real dead end in front of Lee Si. There was no need to hesitate at this critical moment. Lee Si decisively spread the parchment on the ground and injected magic into it. The yellowed parchment began to emit a faint magical luster, and the magic power inside began to fill up. Although this directional magic teleportation array is only a short distance, it is more than enough to cross the distance between Lee Si and the haunted house. Fortunately, if this drawing is used directly, there is no need to set a space mark at the destination in advance, otherwise Lee Si really has no other way. Lee Si set the teleportation target directly in the center of the haunted house in front of him, the innermost room on the first floor. As the magic power filled up, the parchment in his hand turned into ashes. Suddenly, Lee Si's figure twisted and disappeared silently in the maze passage. Please read on. I thought my grades were good, but the editor reminded me that I had to read a lot less. It was hard. Please stop reading and read the last page after reading the new chapter. This is very important to me. Thank you very much. Chapter 68 Confused Angela. After a dizzy spell, Lee Si woke up. Perhaps because he had experienced space teleportation before, his body was more adapted to it, or perhaps because the distance of this teleportation was shorter, Lee Si felt much better this time. After opening his eyes, Lee Si immediately looked at the environment he was in. It was the same style as the outside of the haunted house, with black and grey walls and a dusty ground. The only special thing was that there was a platform with special patterns in front of Lee Si. Fortunately, I remembered it correctly and did not teleport to the wrong place. Looking at the familiar environment around him, Lee Si breathed a sigh of relief. There was no danger in this room. In a sense, I just didn't know if the situation here was the same as in the game. Lee Si rubbed his wrist and walked straight to the platform in the center of the room. The whole room, or the specialness of the whole haunted house, was on this platform in front of him. If you look closely, you can find that the special patterns carved on the platform are actually magic patterns, extending from the altar to the ground. I don't know what role they are playing. In his previous life, Lee Si, who was a studio brusher, had no time to study these magic patterns. He just brushed and finished. But Lee Si, who had just begun to consolidate what he had learned and master the knowledge of magic patterns, could not read all the magic patterns in front of him, but he could see the magic patterns representing blood, nourishment and death. However, the magic patterns in front of him were not the focus, but the item on the platform was more important. A blood red heart. This heart was like a flawless crystal, like a work of art created by a skilled craftsman, shining with a blood red brilliance like a gem. It was still emitting a strong bloody smell, and the magic pattern array on the platform was used to connect this heart. However, Lee Si's eyes did not stay on this blood red heart, but looked at it. Yes, there was something lying on this heart. No, it should be said that it was a monster. A small snow white bat was lying on the heart and snoring, with a snot bubble the size of its body hanging on its small nose, shaking up and down with its breathing. As for the heart placed on the platform, it can be seen that most of the energy it dissipated was absorbed into the body of this bat. Lee Si took a deep breath and then carefully touched the white bat, intending to wake it up from its sweet dream. Lee Si couldn't help but be careful, because the man in front of him was not simple. This white bat was the only extraordinary creature in Maguire's Tomb of Death that had normal intelligence and could communicate with LV-150 Vampire Angela. If it was the perspective of a player in the previous life, as soon as you entered the room, you could see the red warning of extreme danger on the head of this sleeping white bat, showing its status as a boss. But now in Lee Si's eyes, this white bat is a little too cute. Unlike those dirty and black fellows, under its snow white hair are those pink little ears and claws. It curled up tightly, lying sweetly on the heart and sleeping soundly, shaking its little ears from time to time. If Jaya was here, she would have rushed up to hug it and sucked and stroked it wildly. But who would have thought that such a cute little thing would have the strength of a gold level boss? If possible, Lee Si really didn't want to provoke this guy. After all, no matter how cute the little animal is, it can't shake Lee Si's firm belief. Fog. But who can blame it for the key to the second way, to steal chickens in the copy? Lee Si carefully pushed the little thing with his hand. It feels really good. It's cold, soft, and comfortable to touch. Lee Si quickly threw these distracting thoughts out of his head and quickly looked at the movements of the little bat. After a long time, Lee Si came to a conclusion. This guy's really sleeping soundly. In the previous life, he rushed all the way and didn't say much. When he met, he would hit this guy with a fireball. Who would wake up the boss first when brushing the copy and say, "Are you awake? If you are awake, I will do it." There is no way. Saving time for the team boss is Lee Si's professional ethics and a major advantage in maintaining the competitiveness of the studio. This is also why Lee Si knew that there was a second way to pass this secret realm in the previous life, but he never tried it. Now he has to explore carefully. In order to wake this guy up, Lee Si carefully pushed, patted, and then picked it up and threw it, and he was just short of throwing it directly to the ground. Just when Lee Si was hesitating whether to try the awakening technique, the little bat finally woke up from its sweet dream. The snot bubble in front of its head burst, and a pair of small eyes opened confusedly, staring blankly at Lee Si, who was holding the calf and letting it hang upside down in his hands. Lee Si was a little embarrassed. After all, the posture of holding this big guy was not very beautiful. He hurriedly and respectfully put it back on the red bed with both hands. The little bat looked at Lee Si with its black eyes. Lee Si seemed to read from its confused eyes. Who am I? Where am I? And what am I doing? Dear Angela, I'm sorry to wake you up from your sweet dream. Lee Si said respectfully to the little bat lying on his heart, and even performed a noble salute. Oh. Angela obviously hadn't reacted yet. After all, it was too boring in the mausoleum. Since it successfully promoted and awakened its inherited memory, it had never met anyone to communicate with. The only thing it liked was to sleep on this heart every day. The headless guy would draw his sword and chop the bats whenever he saw it. The owner of the mausoleum never came out of the Lich Tower, and no one knew what he was doing, not to mention the other small fish. This also made Angela, who had learned human language from inherited memory, racked for a long time before she realized that the guy in front of her didn't seem to be a dead spirit in the mausoleum, but was somewhat similar to the food in her memory. From outside, Angela, who was still a little sleepy, suddenly woke up. Her little eyes widened, and she quickly said in her not so skilled human language, "Are you human?" From outside the mausoleum, Lee Si looked at Angela, who was trying to support her body with her two little paws, and felt a little relieved. It's good that they didn't do it, and they can communicate. Lee Si chose to delete the memory of those indecent actions just now, and said to Angela, "Yes, I came in from outside this mausoleum, and I didn't expect to meet you, Angela, here." Oh. Angela suddenly found that something seemed to be wrong and asked, "How do you know my name? I didn't tell anyone the name I gave myself. Don't try to lie to me, I'm smart." Lee Si heard that. His expression suddenly became solemn, and there was a trace of yearning in his reverent eyes. "Because after I entered the mausoleum, I received the oracle of Lord Arcane, asking me to take you out of this cage. Please read it. Thank you. I sorted out the outline today. Sorry for the late update. Thank you for your support." Thanks. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 on the self-cultivation of actors. Who is Lord Arcane? Angela tilted her head in confusion, and finally remembered that this was her ancestor, the god of vampires and the night. Lee Si certainly knew what he was talking about. In the Jaia world, Arcane, as the ancestor of vampires, is an extremely ancient and mysterious god, and his ministry is vampire and dark night. Because he rarely shows miracles in front of the world, his name is rarely known to outsiders. Although calling the name of the god directly may attract the attention of the god, and the believers pray for this reason. But in order to gain Angela's trust, this is the most effective argument Lee Si can think of. I think the god should not pay attention to himself for such a small matter. Lisi saw that the little white bat did not respond for a long time and thought that the communication failed. Angela suddenly opened her bright eyes and said, "Did the ancestor ask you to come? Really? That's great." Angela flapped her little wings and flew around excitedly in the room. There was no way it had wanted to leave this mausoleum for a long time. Although this place is very suitable for Angela's growth and there are treasures, it is too boring. Ever since Angela was promoted to the gold level and got the inherited memory, she has been longing for the vast and wonderful world in her memory. It also looked for the lich and wanted Maguire to help it get out, but that guy never understood human language. No matter how he communicated, he ignored it and just barked. Angela was very sad. She felt that the whole mausoleum was full of fools. Was it so smart that it would be trapped here for the rest of its life? Unexpectedly, there was a big surprise. When I woke up today, the ancestor sent someone to rescue it. Angela flew for a while, and all the sleepiness disappeared at once. She looked at the person in front of her with refreshed spirit. "You are such a good person. What's your name? Angela will remember you." Lisi felt that the little white bat in front of him cast a trusting look at him, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but grin. Is this what the guide author said about being simple and cute and easy to deceive? What I saw today is indeed extraordinary. No wonder the author said that this step is actually the easiest in the whole process. You are a gold level boss after all. How come you can pass the level just by using the first move of the 18 sets of rhetoric you prepared? Although he was complaining in his mind, Lisi, who had trained himself to the highest level as an actor, did not change his expression at all and said, "My name is Lisi, and I'm a wizard. I'm willing to help you. Angela, leave this place." Angela nodded quickly, and she completely believed that Lisi could take her out. How could what the ancestor Kane said be false? "Okay, I've been here long enough. How do we get out?" Lisi's face became serious, and he said seriously, "If we want to get out of this mausoleum, we must defeat the Lich Maguire." "Ah. But Angela can't beat him, and Lisi, you look so weak." The little bat was a little timid when he remembered that he had made a big fuss in the Lich Tower before, but was driven out by Maguire. He was a little timid. "It hurts so much to be beaten." Lisi quickly added, "Lord Kane has told me the weakness of the Lich. As long as Lord Angela can entangle him, I can defeat him through special methods." Angela was a little entangled. Last time she went, she finally escaped by turning into a little bat. Even so, her fur was burnt. She slept for a long time before she recovered. She was a little reluctant to fight with Maguire again. But if she didn't go, she really couldn't get out. After thinking about it, the little bat bit her white teeth and did it. "Elbow. I'll take you to break that broken bone." Angela said the most cruel words, raised her little head, and was ready to take Lisi to fight Maguire. Lisi quickly stopped the little bat. If she went directly, she would be sending food. She should be prepared first. Then she pulled Angela to chatter and poured Maguire's skills, expertise and precautions into the little bat's head in detail. After Lisi told Angela all the information he knew, he even asked about its skills and specially formulated several sets of tactics for it. The little bat nodded repeatedly and looked at Lisi with a trace of admiration. This man is so powerful, no wonder the ancestor asked him to come and rescue him. After listening to Lisi's instructions, Angela flew up from the heartbed and landed on Lisi's head, pulling his black hair and asked, "Can we go out directly after we defeat Maguire?" "Yes, we should go out directly. If Lisi's estimate is correct, after defeating Maguire, he should be able to get the secret crystal of this copy. If not, the magic circle for teleporting out should also be in Maguire's Lich Tower. Then I want to take something away." Hearing this, Angela landed on the heart and pulled it up with force. Lisi knew why Angela liked this heart. It was a heart left by a Duke level vampire and was used by Maguire as the core of the operation of the ghost house. This is the essence of the vampire's blood. I don't know where Maguire got this vampire heart that is close to the legendary level. Angela can naturally get a lot of benefits from it. In addition to her own talent, this heart is also a great help for her to break through to the gold level. This is why Angela likes to sleep on it. Lisi saw Angela trying hard to take the heart away, but it didn't move at all after a lot of effort, so he shook his head. This heart is connected to the entire house through magic patterns. How can it be broken off with brute force? Lisi walked forward and touched the magic pattern connecting the heart and the platform with his right hand, disconnecting the connection between the two magic patterns of solid and rock. Angela pulled the heart out suddenly, and it flew far away due to inertia. When it flapped its wings and flew back with the heart, it shouted, "Lisi, you are so amazing. How did you do it?" Lisi waved his hand. It is not difficult for anyone who knows a little about magic patterns. After all, the magic patterns on this platform are not complicated. Shall we go? Lisi asked, watching Angela trying to grab the blood red heart and drop it on his head, and asked quickly, "Do you want me to put it away for you first, and then give it to you after we get out?" Angela thought about it, nodded, and put the precious vampire heart in Lisi's hand, and curiously watched Lisi put the heart into the storage ring. Now Angela feels more and more that this man named Lisi is so powerful. Are there so many powerful people in the outside world? Will he be caught and made into soup when he goes out? The little golden level bat, who has no experience and all his knowledge comes from inherited memory, is a little sad at this time and a little uneasy about the outside world. Please vote for the monthly ticket to follow me. It is very important for children. Thank you. Thanks. Communication Group 788,183,814. Chapter 70 Preparations Before the War. In front of the Lich Tower, where the final boss Maguire of this secret realm is located, Lisi and Angela are making final preparations here, and are about to face this existence who has lived for an unknown period of time. Lisi suddenly remembered something, and asked the little bat on his head, "Lord Angela, how long have you been in this mausoleum?" "I don't know. I have been in it since I can remember. I have visited the entire mausoleum, but it's boring, so I just slept there." In fact, Lisi found it very strange that Angela, as a vampire, would have inherited memories. This was something Angela just let slip when she was chatting with him. Shouldn't this be exclusive to those dragons? Forget it. Maybe Angela's bloodline is a little special, and it is not an ordinary existence. Otherwise the entire ghost house would not have successfully promoted it to the gold level boss. Thinking of this, Lisi turned his head and looked behind. Following behind him and Angela were a group of dark figures, each of whom exuded a terrifying aura. These were all the monsters in the entire ghost house, all vampires and blood servants transformed into human forms. The two high-level blood servants guarding the gate were also among them. Their pale faces and scowled eyes were in line with people's stereotypes of monsters like vampires. When Lisi set out, he found that none of the monsters in the entire mansion attacked him and Angela, so he asked Angela if he could control these monsters. Angela said, "Isn't this a simple thing? As a high-level vampire, Angela can naturally command these unintelligent monsters, and Angela doesn't think these disgusting black guys are her own kind." Lisi asked Angela to pull all the monsters in the mansion, even if it means blocking one skill in the battle with Maguire. The little bat naturally followed suit and became what it is now. Maybe the real world is still a little different from the game. Lisi doesn't remember anyone mentioning this kind of operation in his previous life. It's really nice to rush around in the secret realm with a bunch of monsters that should have been enemies. On the way to the Lich Tower, even if you encounter wandering monsters, you don't have to avoid them as far as before. The vampires behind you will rush over and tear them into pieces. If it weren't for saving time, Lisi even wanted to return to the Dark Palace and clean up all the dullah in there. But it's better to hurry up. I don't know how Yazan and others are doing now. Lisi thought so, took a deep breath, and prepared to enter the middle of the Lich Tower. "Lord Angela, where does Maguire usually stay?" Lisi asked. After all, after defeating the Dullahan and Angela in the previous life, Maguire would wake up and come to the door automatically, and Lisi didn't have to find him himself. The little bat lying on Lisi's head scratched his head. To be honest, it had only been here once, and couldn't remember it clearly. It seems to be the room at the top. No one cares if I wander around in other places in this tower. As soon as I enter that room, the Lich comes out. Is that so? Because Maguire's life box is in that room, Angela is not allowed to go in. Then let's go in. Be careful. Angela, let these guys behind go in first. Lisi asked Angela to command the vampire soldiers to split into two groups. One group will explore the way ahead, and the other group will surround Lisi and Angela. Just as planned, Angela, you lead these monsters. To lead Maguire out of that room, preferably to the first floor. I will go into that room and destroy Maguire's life box. Angela nodded. If she just wanted to entangle Maguire, she would still be very confident. Fortunately, as the big boss, Maguire has no ability to summon small monsters. He is the only monster in the entire Lich Tower, so there is no need to worry about other variables. After making all the preparations, Lee Si took a deep breath to adjust his mentality, and then he and Angela headed towards the Lich Tower. Can we only say that this is worthy of being the place prepared by Maguire for himself after he transformed into a Lich? The entire Lich Tower is inscribed with dense array runes. It has been operating normally for thousands of years, maintaining the cleanliness of the Lich Tower. It is not like other monster nests that are grey and shabby. It is a dark style building as always, but the door of the Lich Tower is open to the outside and not closed. There are traces of attacks on it. Angela whispered, I opened it when I came last time. It took a lot of effort. Lee Si just wanted to give Angela a thumbs up, which saved a lot of trouble. Commanding the vampire cannon fodder to enter the wizard tower first, it seems that there is no change. It may be that Angela has cleared all the magic traps that have been set up last time. Walking into the door of the wizard tower, what comes into view is the Black Bear Hall and the upward stairs, without any prosperous and special decorations. I think Maguire thinks that for a Lich, enjoyment is meaningless. As for research equipment and so on, it is still in time to buy them after successfully transforming into a Lich. Lee Si, who had no chance to search, didn't care. He took out his staff and began to cast various buff and protection spells for himself and Angela. Angela looked up curiously at the spell auras and did feel that her ability had improved, although the extent was not large. Is this the magic in the memory? It's so beautiful. It's much better than its blood magic. The determination to go outside was even stronger, and Angela also cast buff spells for it and Lee Si. Blood magic blood burst. Activate the blood energy in the user's body. Temporarily increase strength, speed and perception by 30%. The duration is 30 minutes, and after the buff state ends, it enters a weak state for 30 minutes. Blood magic blood veil, increase the user's dodge rate by 30%, and at the same time, 20% of the damage caused by the attack will be converted into a blood shield to resist physical and spell damage. The duration is 30 minutes. Blood magic bloodthirst. 50% of the effective damage caused by the user will be converted into health recovery, and the duration is 1 hour. Is this the strength of a gold level vampire? It's really strong. These skills that were annoying to the players in the previous life, now Lee Si thinks it's very good. The feeling of being full of power is really good. Lee Si and Angela move towards the upper level of the Lich Tower together. The entire Lich Tower has 5 floors. The top floor is where Maguire transforms into a Lich, and it is also where his life box is. A group of people came to the top floor. Lee Si took Angela and stood far away on the other side, directing the cannon fodder to open the door. The black door made of unknown metal is embedded in the wall and is not locked. A small fish pushed the door open with effort. Suddenly, his figure seemed to be hit by something and quickly hit the wall not far away. A cold wind blew, and a figure in a black wizard robe appeared in front of Lee Si and Angela. Maguire, please vote for the monthly ticket to follow up, which is very important for children. Thank you. Thanks. Communication Group 788,183,814. Chapter 71 Fear Aura. Maguire, the master of this mausoleum, suddenly appeared in front of Lee Si and Angela, floating quietly in the air, silently showing his strength. The skinny figure was tightly wrapped in a pure black wizard robe, and the exposed face had long lost a trace of life. The withered muscles were actively attached to the bones. The eyes had long been rotten, but the deep red pupils still shone with evil light in the empty eye sockets. The moment he saw Maguire, Lee Si felt that his mind was hit hard, and the prompt information on the system panel was jumping wildly. You are affected by the Fear Aura. Effective Lich Maguire, LV 170. Fear Aura. The Lich is surrounded by a terrible aura of death and evil. Creatures within 30 meters of it must pass a will test, otherwise they will be affected by the fear spell of the Lich level. You accept the consciousness check of Fear Aura. critical. Your specialty, Fearless Challenger, effect is triggered. You are exempt from the consciousness check of Fear Aura. Lee Si gathered his mind. Fortunately, he had the specialty, Fearless Challenger. Otherwise, it would be difficult to pass the consciousness check of Fear Aura with his bronze level strength. After all, the gap between him and Maguire is quite large. Lee Si didn't want to be hit by a gold level Lich's Fear spell. Angela, who was staying above Lee Si, flashed and appeared in front of Maguire, and a sharp cry came from her mouth. The vampires and blood servants who were still around rushed towards Maguire, as if they had received an order, as if they were going to drown Maguire completely. Angela was not idle either. She knew the difference between a gold level cannon fodder and a gold level boss. She could only hold Maguire back for a few minutes at most. She had to take action and lead Maguire downstairs from this room. She no longer held back. Her small body shook, and a surging blood-colored airflow spread out from her body. Angela's figure gradually changed in the bloodlight, and a white-haired little girl appeared in front of Lee Si. Her long white hair hung softly at her waist. Her clear black eyes were serious. Her small melon seed face was set off by delicate features, like a graceful and elegant elf. Although she was only about 1.34 meters tall, she was floating in the air, and her momentum was not inferior to Maguire. Sure enough, she had not changed from the previous life, and she was worthy of being one of the most favorite bosses selected by players in many copies. Seeing Angela showing her true form and starting to attack Maguire, Lee Si quickly dodged and hid behind the vampire soldiers. Grey, black and blood red light flashed continuously, and the aftermath of the magic attack continued to spread from the place where Angela and Maguire fought to the surroundings, leaving traces on the surrounding walls. Both sides did not hold back. Lee Si could still see that Angela was a little at a disadvantage. After all, there was a 20 level gap between her and Maguire, and this was Maguire's home court. He could also use the magic circle of the Lich Tower to assist in the battle. However, Angela's goal was not to defeat Maguire. With the help of the cannon fodder, she entangled Maguire and moved the battlefield to the side of the stairs little by little. Lee Si hid behind the vampire who was left behind on purpose to avoid Maguire's attention. It's true that this vampire who stayed behind was really good as a meat shield. His tall body covered Lee Si tightly, otherwise the aftermath of the battle would be enough for Lee Si to drink a pot. Fortunately, Maguire was unconscious, otherwise it would be impossible for him to leave the room, where the life box was so easy. Angela suddenly screamed, and the whole person was wrapped in a thick blood red light. She broke through the Lich's protective spell, and knocked him down the stairs to the first floor. Then, more violent noises came from downstairs. Angela had desperately created an opportunity for Lee Si. After confirming that the Lich was tightly entangled by Angela, Lee Si quickly appeared from behind the big vampire and rushed into the room where Maguire had just appeared. As soon as he entered the door, he saw a huge and complicated magic circle on the ground in the center of the room. Lee Si felt a little dizzy when he saw the chaotic and complicated magic patterns. This is not at the same level as the magic patterns on the platform of the ghost house. It should be the ritual magic circle that Maguire used to transform into a lich. Lee Si had no interest in this magic circle. After all, he didn't want to become a lich, a thing that was neither human nor ghost. Isn't it good to be a human? Besides, Lee Si has the confidence to break through the limits of human beings. Moreover, it is said that the transformation into a lich has infinite life, but in fact, under the infection of darkness and undead energy, even if the transformation is successful, the mind will continue to fall into the dark side. Is that really yourself? What's more, Lee Si felt that there must be something wrong with Maguire's ritual magic circle. It's okay that the consciousness was completely destroyed, and the transformation into a lich was not successful. I don't know what happened. Maguire didn't have the ability to regenerate with the phylactery. His body was destroyed by the player, and he was really dead. However, if Maguire's phylactery was destroyed, he would also die directly. This is very embarrassing, and there is a fatal weakness for nothing. While thinking about it, Lee Si didn't delay at all, and ran to the magic circle in the middle of the room. In the middle of the complicated magic circle, there is a small golden box wrapped in precious monster skin. If someone doesn't know the situation, they will definitely think that this is Maguire's phylactery. But Lisi knew very well that this was just a trick that Maguire used to confuse intruders before his transformation. If he opened this small golden box, it would trigger the teleportation pattern on the Lich Tower, teleporting himself to the White Bone Evil Temple at the bottom of the mausoleum, buying time for Maguire to rush back. Lisi, who had learned the intelligence in advance, did not even look at this glaring trap. Instead, he used the flying technique to float in the air and kept groping on the black ceiling just above the core of the magic circle. Lisi paused, as if he had touched what he was looking for. With a strong push, a box of the same color as the ceiling appeared in Lisi's hand. This box looked ordinary, without any magical brilliance, but it was the same as the picture that Lisi had seen in the forum in his previous life. This was Maguire's phylactery. Maguire's phylactery. Introduction. This strange object created by the quasi-Lich Maguire with great effort, and it hosts the soul of the Lich Maguire. Just when Lisi got the phylactery, a terrifying roar suddenly came from outside the house, and waves of powerful pressure continued to come from downstairs. Angela's sharp and urgent voice also came from downstairs, revealing the anxiety of the situation. Lisi, hurry up, I can't stop him. Lisi naturally didn't dare to delay any time, threw the life box on the ground, took out the long sword from the storage ring, and slashed at the life box. Please read it. This is very important for children. Please help me. Thank you. Thanks. Communication Group 788,183,814. Chapter 72 cleared. Clank. The long sword in Lisi's hand slashed on the life-saving box, making a crisp sound, but the sharp long sword only left a white mark on it. I didn't expect this thing to be so hard. Lisi's hands were numb from the shock. After all, it was a life-saving box made by a nearly legendary wizard. It was still difficult to destroy it with his own strength attribute. After putting away the long sword and confirming that physical attacks had no effect, Lisi took out the jade staff and chanted a spell. Blue sphere. Hollow explosion. The fire element condensed, and 3 blue and hot fireballs appeared in front of Lisi. This time, all 3 fireballs were attached with the 3-ring arcane hollow explosion by Lisi, and under Lisi's guidance, they smashed towards the black box on the ground. Boom. The blue fireball hit the life-saving box hard, and the terrifying high temperature distorted the air. Khaleesi saw that under the dual effects of the blue ball technique and the collapse explosion, obvious cracks had appeared on the body of the life-saving box. It worked. Lisi immediately seized the time and mobilized all his magic power. Blue fireballs continued to condense around Lisi and smashed into the black life box on the ground. The fierce battle sound downstairs was getting closer and closer to Lisi. Lisi knew that Angela could not buy him much time. Ignoring the tearing pain in his body, caused by the rapid operation of magic power, Lisi held the emerald staff in his right hand and continued to cast spells. With his left hand, he took out the recovery potion from the storage ring and poured it into his mouth to continuously make up for the consumed magic power in his body. Instructing the vampires following him to block the door, Lisi continued to cast spells in an orderly manner. He did not hesitate at all because of the approaching battle sound, and even took the time to use the fuel spell once. Perhaps because Lisi obtained the 2 talents of Intermediate Fire Element Affinity and Spellcasting Genius. Primary, Lisi clearly felt that the power of casting spells had been greatly enhanced compared to the previous battle. Even Maguire's life box could not withstand Lisi's bombardment and began to break and melt in the blue flames. Downstairs, the entire Lich Tower seemed to be shaken by Maguire's anger. The magic patterns on the wall lit up one after another, and the Lich's withered figure condensed terrifying power. Angela was hit hard by Maguire's dark swords and hit into the wall. The blood on her body dimmed a little. Angela wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth with her little hand. She felt very painful. It was a pity. She didn't want to fight anymore. Why did this guy attack so hard this time? He was obviously not beaten so badly last time. But Angela still rushed up resignedly. What she promised must be done, and this is her only hope to leave here. She must fight. Maguire, who was unconscious, instinctively felt that something threatening his life was happening upstairs. The instinct for survival made him burst out with all his strength. The fingertips that had turned into bones condensed the power of dark death and pointed in the direction of Angela. 9-ring spell. Finger of death. Angela felt that all the hairs on her body stood up, and the shadow of death enveloped her whole body. She could no longer care about stopping Maguire. The blood in her body condensed into several layers of protective shields in front of her. The vampires surrounding Maguire also rushed forward frantically to block Angela. The aura representing death instantly shot from Maguire's fingertips to Angela, and the dark light seemed to deprive all the lives along the way. The vampires blocking Angela couldn't stand it at all, and turned into ashes under the black aura. The black aura hit the blood-colored shield in front of Angela. After weakening the black aura by half, the shield also shattered, and the attack fell directly on Angela's petite body. Angela seemed unable to withstand this terrifying attack, and her whole body turned into ashes in the dark aura. But then, not far from the battlefield, Angela's figure emerged from midair again, but her little face was pale, and she seemed to have been severely injured. Blood price. Consume half of the blood in your body to resist a fatal attack. Cooldown time. 7 days. The black airflow surrounding Maguire's body also decreased by half, as if he had paid a certain price for the attack just now. However, there was no one to stop Maguire now, and he dodged and rushed to the room on the 5th floor. The fearless vampires and blood servants were all killed by Maguire's attack at all costs. Their deaths did not cause any ripples, but it also delayed Maguire for a few breaths. Just as Maguire rushed to the door and was about to rush into the room, his whole body floating in the air suddenly froze in place. In the room, Lisi was panting, and the life box in front of him had been completely broken, gradually disappearing in the scorching blue flames. Lisi seemed to hear the roar and scream of Maguire's soul disappearing in his ears. Looking back, the Lich Maguire outside the door was less than 10 meters away from him, but this short distance seemed like an insurmountable barrier to him. The body, which was only a skeleton, slowly turned into dust from bottom to top and rifted in the air. At this moment, Maguire, who had existed for who knows how long, finally ushered in the end of his life and was freed. You destroyed the Lich Maguire's life box. You killed the Lich Maguire. LV 170. You gain 2 million experience points. Rewards have been reduced. You gain expertise. Undead killer. You complete the hidden milestone. Incredible miracle. You successfully pass through the secret realm. Maguire's Tomb of Death. It is detected that you are the first player to pass through the secret realm. You gain the secret realm crystal, Maguire's Tomb of Death, gold level, and an additional companion secret realm crystal, Neri Tree Demon's Lair, bronze level. You successfully pass through the secret realm dungeon Maguire's Tomb of Death. Testing. The dungeon is 30% complete. You gain 3 million experience points. You gain expertise. Enemy of the dead. Intermediate undead energy resistance. You gain skills. 4th ring spells control. Corpse's Fear. 9th ring spell. Finger of Death. 1/3. You complete the milestone. Gold level secret realm conqueror. A series of information was refreshed on Lisi's panel, but before Lisi could check, the entire Lich Tower began to shake. No, it should be said that the entire maze was shaking. After Maguire died completely, the soul mark he left in the mausoleum also dissipated, and the magic circle that maintained the existence of the mausoleum also stopped working. The entire mausoleum gradually collapsed under the pressure of the earth above. No, hurry up. Lisi saw the magic circle in the room dim and lose its aura, and the surrounding walls began to break and collapse, and hurriedly left the room. At this time, Angela, who had turned into a white little bat again, also flew over and dived into Lisi's black hair and asked weakly, "Lisi, is Maguire dead? Can we get out now?" Lisi nodded, and there would be no problem finding Angela. Take out the secret crystal that has just been obtained and inject magic power into it. In the maze, Yazan, who was hiding in the dark palace, Elena, who was chased by zombies, Lumbosi, who was hiding in the white bone temple, and Yaya, who was lost in the maze for a long time, were all shocked and disappeared with Lisi and Angela in this secret place that was about to be destroyed. Please give me a monthly ticket, which is very important for children. Thank you. Thanks. Communication group 788,183,814. Chapter 73. The Worried Beavis. In the forest of Kola village, while Lisi and others were still struggling to survive in McQuail's Tomb of Death, a group of uninvited guests came to the forest on the ground. The rapidly growing forest had no chance to resist at this moment, and a wide flat area was cleared in the center. The knights wearing platinum full body armor, riding on the same fully armed strong horses, kept searching in this area, as if searching for something. Not far away, teams of soldiers were clearing the surrounding woods. It was a very difficult task for the guards Chuld and others, but it was nothing for this well-trained army. In the center of the forest, a flag with a golden lion was fluttering in the wind. Several strong men in armor stood under the flag and discussed something. Captain Milliner, when we arrived, there was only the camp of the mercenary group here. We didn't find any traces of those mercenaries. Now we are exploring everywhere. Walsh, the captain of the first squad of the Golden Lion Knights, bowed and said respectfully to the man, surrounded by the crowd in the center. The man in golden armor had a stern face, and his strong lines showed the traces of time. His temples were already stained with frost, but his burly figure and thick arms all reflected the terrifying power hidden in his body. This was Bevis Milliner, the leader of the First Knight Order of the Kingdom, the Golden Lion Knights. Expand the search range, and clear out all of this forest for me. We must find out what happened here. Bevis gave the order in an unquestionable tone, with a calm and cold face. Walsh was a little surprised, but his military style made him not ask Bevis the reason, but respectfully performed a knight's salute, and went to execute the order. The people around felt the low pressure surrounding Bevis, and did not dare to say much. Although the adjutant beside Bevis didn't know what had happened, the usually calm Bevis couldn't control his emotions, but he still said, Bevis, the adventure group you are looking for should not be in this area. After a pause, seeing Bevis slightly tilt his head, the adjutant continued, there are no signs of fighting around, nor any other abnormal conditions. I can only think of two possibilities. The first is that they discovered the cause of the changes in this area, followed them all the way, and even left this forest without even having time to clean up the camp. After saying this, the adjutant shook his head and felt that this possibility was not high. The second possibility is that they disappeared directly from the camp due to some accident. There are many possibilities, such as space teleportation, overlapping of different planes, projection of the kingdom of God, etc. If this is true, it is difficult for our knights to investigate it clearly with their capabilities. Listening to his adjutant's opinion, Bevis frowned tightly, and he naturally thought of these. But if it is really the second situation, it means that the situation faced by Yazan and his team is even more dangerous. As soon as the palace received the distress message sent by Yazan through the special treasure, His Majesty the King immediately arranged for his confidant Bevis to lead the most elite Golden Lion Knights of the capital to rescue. It took Lisi and others 2 days to travel, but Bevis and his men drove at full speed in just half a day to reach the place where Yazan and others disappeared. But the current situation makes Bevis feel powerless. He doesn't even know the current location of Yazan and others. Humph. Bevis was a little irritated. He rarely couldn't control his emotions. The youngest son of the Had family died, so he died. He was asked to take care of little Taia, but training in tempering did not include facing such danger. If Yazan was in front of Bevis now, Bevis would have slapped him in the face. As the leader of the Golden Lion Knights, and one of His Majesty the King's confidants, Bevis naturally knew Yalla's true identity. In fact, little Taia followed Bevis to study for a long time. Bevis had long regarded little Taia as his close disciple. Although he was known as the strongest warrior in the kingdom, the first person under the legendary warrior, and had the reputation of the guardian lion of Fis, Bevis knew very well that he might not be able to break through that bottleneck and become a legend in his lifetime. But little Taia could. Since she showed her terrifying talent, she has been regarded as the most important treasure by the kingdom, and has been protected in secret. Very few people know her identity. In order for Taia to grow more smoothly, the kingdom's best resources and top-notch teachings were all invested in Taia. Even the teammates who took the adventures were specially arranged or secretly investigated, including Lisi. As long as Taia can break through the boundaries and become the first legendary warrior in the kingdom of Fis, all the efforts will be worth it. Therefore, whether from the interests of the kingdom or Bevis' personal feelings, no one wants Yalla to get into trouble. Without hesitation, Beavis immediately ordered his subordinates, immediately send a message to the palace, report the actual situation to His Majesty the King, and request the Royal Mage Corps to send people for support. Yes. The Golden Lion Knight on the side immediately executed Beavis's order. Beavis looked into the distance with a worried look on his face. God of the Dawn, I hope little Taia is safe. Not long after, the support of the Royal Mage Corps arrived at the scene through the remote positioning teleportation array. The visitor was none other than the Vice President of the Royal School of Magic of Feast and the Vice Head of the Royal Mage Corps, His Excellency Odysseus Bloomer. Odysseus and Beavis have known each other for many years, so he naturally knew the special situation, and did not waste time to investigate the scene. Odysseus, who was grey-haired but energetic, soon discovered the hidden problem in this space. There are traces of spatial folds in this area, and spatial teleportation should have occurred recently. Odysseus frowned and said, "Really?" Beavis suddenly became alert. It was good to have a clue. He asked quickly, "Can you track the specific teleportation location? This should be a teleportation array specially arranged by a senior wizard. His strength and means are no less than mine. Let me try it first." Odysseus did not say anything final. He shook his right hand holding the black staff lightly. Invisible ripples spread from his body to the surroundings, carefully exploring this space. At this moment, something strange happened. The space in front of Odysseus and Beavis suddenly distorted on a large scale, and several figures suddenly appeared in front of the two. After a short and familiar dizziness, Lee Si woke up and touched his head at the first time. It was cold. Fortunately, Angela came out with him. Otherwise, the mausoleum would have been completely destroyed, and even if Lee Si had the secret realm crystal, he would not be able to go back. However, it may be because of the excessive consumption just now, or it may be because she trusted Lee Si more. The little bat Angela fell asleep directly on Lee Si's head, without any movement. Lee Si then looked around. Yeah, Yazan, Elena, and Lumbo were all there. They didn't seem to be injured. He was lucky. Suddenly, Lee Si found that the forest around him had disappeared, replaced by hundreds of well-equipped soldiers. Two old men stood in front of him, staring at his direction. Damn, what's going on? Please read it again. It's very important for children. Thank you. Thanks. Communication Group 788,183,814. Chapter 74 Breakthrough. Silver Level. Beavis and Bloomer stared at the people who suddenly appeared in front of them and fell silent. Beavis winked at Bloomer. Great, you are still being modest to me, but you have found all the people in no time, right? Bloomer glanced at him speechlessly. You are old and your brain is not working well anymore. If I were so powerful, the position of Dean would be mine. Uncle Beavis. Yada's voice sounded beside Lee Si, breaking the awkwardness between the few people. Lee Si was somewhat grateful for Yada's support at this time. How could he not recognize the two old men in front of him? They were all the top masters of the kingdom. Top Gold Mage, Deputy Leader of the Royal Mage Corps of Fez, Odysseus Bloomer. Top Gold Warrior, Leader of the Golden Lion Knights, Beavis Milliner. Uncle, why are you here? Although Yada looked a little dusty, she should not have encountered any danger, and was still in high spirits. But the others were not doing well. Yazan, Elena and Lumbus collapsed on the ground, looking pale and as if they had been burned out. Beavis quickly pulled Yada aside and looked her up and down. After confirming that Yada was not injured, he breathed a sigh of relief and said, I received a notice from the nearby lord that something unusual had happened here, so I brought people to take a look. I didn't expect you, little girl, to be here too. Yada nodded repeatedly after hearing this, thinking it was really a coincidence to meet Uncle Beavis here. Lee Si curled his lips. Are you kidding me? The changes here are indeed unusual, but sending out the strongest warriors and the sharpest Golden Lion Knights of the kingdom, as well as the deputy leader of the Royal Mage Corps, is too much of a compliment to Lich Maguire. This configuration can form a group to clear this secret realm 10 times. It is clear that they received the message that Yada was in danger and rushed to rescue her. This is too fast. Lee Si felt that he had only been in the dungeon for about a day. Looking at this scene, they entered the dungeon less than half a day before the knights arrived. It seems that even without his presence, Yada and the others will be fine. Wang Jiuo is really worried. Lee Si sighed and touched Angela on his head. This guy is sleeping in the sun now. Is he okay? At this moment, Lee Si noticed that the old man who had just stood with Beavis was staring at him, a little strange. Hello, Vice President Bloomer. Aren't you here to rescue Yara? Why are you looking at me? Lee Si was a little helpless and could only step forward and take the initiative to say hello. This guy is a real big shot. You can't mess with him. Are you a student of the academy? Bloomer was more interested. Yes, I have been studying in the academy for 7 or 8 years. What's your name? Lee Si. Good boy. Lee Si, who was suddenly praised, was confused. What's going on? Why did he suddenly praise him? Because he rescued Yara and the others from the mausoleum? At this time, Beavis came over with Yara, nodded to Lee Si, and asked, "You are Lee Si?" The little girl said she didn't know how she came out. "Did you do it?" Lee Si nodded. There was no need to hide it. The people present were all experienced and powerful, and they could tell at a glance if they were not lying. We should have been teleported to a mausoleum. The monsters inside are very strong. The strongest one is a gold level lich, but he has no self-awareness. I learned this from Angela. Lee Si pointed to the little white bat sleeping on his head. With Beavis and Bloomer's eyesight, they could naturally see at a glance that this was a gold level vampire. With her help, I destroyed the lich's life box and finally left the mausoleum with the help of the teleportation array. The mausoleum should have collapsed because it was no longer maintained by its owner. Lee Si briefly described the whole thing, attributed most of the credit to Angela, and also concealed a little about the strength of the Lich Maguire, making everything more logical. Beavis nodded. He could see that Angela was different from the vampires who existed in the shadows. The pure blood around her was without a trace of impurities, so she would not shout and kill casually. Good boy, not bad. Thanks to you this time. No wonder that guy Fuchsis praised you in front of His Majesty the King. Beavis' seemingly unintentional words made Lee Si cheer up. Ducard? It's interesting. After speaking, Beavis followed Yara's instructions and went to the side to arrange people to reorganize the army. Yara said to Lee Si, Uncle Beavis is my teacher. I finally met him. He wants to take me back for training. I won't go back with you. Lee Si nodded. It seems that the kingdom is still worried about Yara and wants to take her back to the capital first. After speaking, Yara walked to Yazan and informed them. Yazan and the others had just recovered from exhaustion, so they naturally had no objection. Compared with the mausoleum, the environment they are in now is simply heaven, and they are not in a hurry to leave. It's quite interesting here. I will organize a research here after I return to the academy. Lee Si, do you have any objection? Odysseus said with a smile. This should be a mausoleum built by a wizard who is not inferior to himself. Although the lich transformation ceremony failed, the remaining things should still have some value. Lee Si nodded quickly, not daring to have any opinions. Are you kidding, boss? You can do whatever you want. I have no objection to packing it up and taking it away. Moreover, Lee Si felt strange in his heart. He always felt that there was something wrong with the way Odysseus looked at him. This attitude was too friendly. Where is your aloofness, boss? Odysseus smiled and nodded, and then he got up and left with the followers of the mage group. He is still at the bronze level, but he has already changed his job to an arcane master. This kid. I didn't expect that there would be such a big surprise when he went out. Odysseus made up his mind, waved his hand to start the teleportation array, and his figure disappeared in a burst of light. After all the people from the Golden Lion Knights and the Mage Corps left, Yara followed Beavis back to Kangwang City first. Lee Si also breathed a sigh of relief and walked to sit next to Yazan and others. Fortunately, the camp built before was not destroyed, and there was still a place to rest. Lee Si's nerves, which had been tense in the mausoleum, also relaxed. Seeing that Yazan and others didn't want to say anything about being tired, he said hello and walked into the tent to rest. Although Lee Si was also very tired, he had more important things to do now. He gently took Angela off his head and placed her on the soft blanket in Lee Si's tent. Lee Si left the camp and walked towards the forest that had not been cut down. He wanted to find a quiet place to thoroughly digest and master this harvest. Walking to a tall tree, Lee Si sat cross-legged under the tree, took a deep breath, and prepared himself mentally. exhaling the system, looking at the huge amount of experience in the panel that he had not dared to think of before. Lee Si decisively invested it in leveling up. Your personal level has increased. 44-45. You gain strength +2, agility +1, intelligence +2, charm +1, mystery +1, endurance +1. Your personal level is increased. 49-50. You gain strength +2, agility +1, intelligence +2, charm +1, mystery +1, endurance +1. The player level is detected to have reached level 50, triggering the silver level limit breakthrough judgment. Breakthrough judgment, 1/3. Main occupation level is greater than or equal to level 50. Judgment passed. Note, player level equals main occupation level plus secondary occupation level. Class promotion must meet the main occupation level requirements. Breakthrough judgment, 2/3. All attributes exceed 50 points. Judgment passed. Note, class promotion cannot be completed in the case of negative status, physical defects, etc. Breakthrough judgment, 3/3. Basic occupation promotion judgment passed. Note, bronze level promotion to silver level requires basic occupation transfer or promotion to clarify the future path. For example, warriors are promoted to shield warriors, mages are promoted to illusionists, and arcanists are already the top professions below legend. All judgments passed. Do you want to start the promotion to silver level? Yes/no. Lee Si confirmed, and suddenly, violent energy fluctuations spread from Lee Si's body to the surroundings, and the weeds were crushed to the ground by the violent wind. The promotion has begun. Please read on, brothers. Lee Si is finally going to reach the silver level. What different changes do you think will happen? Chapter 75 Terrifying Attributes. The promotion has begun. Lee Si only felt the terrifying energy accumulating in his body, and the deep pain in his soul, permeated between his bones and flesh, piercing his heart and bones. He felt that his body was like a huge furnace burning with raging fire, tempering every corner of his body. Every cell was reborn in this process, and began to exude vitality. Lee Si gritted his teeth, and could no longer reduce the pain like in the game in his previous life. He could only rely on himself to get through it. Fortunately, this pain was not a harm to the body, but a necessary process for one to be reborn, and break out of the cocoon, and become a butterfly. However, soon, the physical pain receded like a tide. Lee Si felt that his body was filled with unprecedented power, and the outside world seemed to have wiped away the fog in front of him, and he felt that the whole world was brand new. Breakthrough in the silver rank, your main occupation Arcanist promotion. Primary intermediate, your understanding of magic element is deeper, elemental affinity is further improved, you can touch higher level power, and get an additional 10% intelligence bonus. You have taken a big step forward. Breaking through to a new level, and your strength has been enhanced. Your physical strength is improved, your perception ability is enhanced, your metabolism is enhanced, your adaptability to abnormal environments is enhanced, and your potential qualifications are improved. You are promoted to silver level, and each level gains more attribute points. 1 point per level, 3 points per level. You gain attribute completion, your strength plus 200, agility plus 100, intelligence plus 200, charm plus 100, mystery plus 100, endurance plus 100. You gain 100 free attribute points. Your life undergoes a new transformation. Your body becomes stronger and more robust, and your mana becomes more abundant. Your health and mana conversion bonus increases. Conversion bonus plus 30%. Health equals endurance attribute points asterisk 26 plus strength attribute points asterisk 13. Mana equals intelligence attribute points asterisk 39. You become a silver level life. Gain expertise. Silver level rank bonus. Extraordinary magic. Silver level. Rank bonus. All resistances plus 10%. Highest attribute plus 10%. Other attributes plus 5%. Potential points plus 10. Super magic. You have a better grasp of magic element. Your mana plus 30%. And gain extra damage bonus. The bonus effect depends on the character level. LV 150. Plus 1% damage bonus per level. LV 50,100. Plus 2% damage bonus per level. LV 100200. plus 4% damage bonus per level, LV 200. And above, plus 8% damage bonus per level, super magic current total damage bonus. 50%. You are promoted to a new level, and your talent Almighty is improved. Talent, Almighty, effect. Your talent breaks through the limit, and you can learn and master other professional expertise and skills. The more professional skills you master, excluding the main professional skills, the faster you will grow. Current. Additional experience value bonus. 50%. Increased by 20%. The restrictions on your use of some supernatural items are reduced. Rank promotion is over. Congratulations, you have successfully broken through to the silver level. Lee Si let out a long breath. When he broke through to the silver level in his previous life, he could only feel the difference in his own attributes from the numbers. Now he truly felt that he had broken through to a new world. He clenched his fists and felt the magic power in his body boiling. The pain brought by the transformation and evolution of his life had completely subsided, leaving only the sense of fullness of mastering the power. The whole person was adjusted to the best state. The perception of the world has never been so clear and meticulous. His soul feels more tenacious and clear, as if he has shed his heavy shell and gained a new life. So strong. Lee Si felt the changes in his body and felt that he could beat 10 Camus now. With a thought, the magic power in his body surged out under the guidance of Lee Si's thoughts, and 10 dark blue fireballs condensed in the air around his body, floating quietly in the air, and the air was twisted and deformed under the extremely high temperature. Before the breakthrough, although Lee Si could also cast the blue ball technique continuously, that was achieved without taking into account the backlash of his own magic power, which would cause certain damage to Lee Si's body. But now, raising his hand and casting 10 blue ball spells at the same time was effortless, and Lee Si even felt that he still had a lot of spare energy. With a wave of his hand, the dark blue fireball in the air smashed fiercely towards the forest in front of Lee Si. Boom. The deafening sound startled several birds that wanted to fly into the forest from afar and left here without looking back. In front of Lee Si, more than 300 square meters of forest turned into ashes, and the dark blue flames jumped on the dark ground, burning as if they wanted to destroy everything. Lee Si nodded with satisfaction. It was worthy of the silver level power. It has broken through to a new level. Whether it is the power of the blue ball spell or the temperature of the flame, it is far beyond the past. Lee Si called out the panel and added all the 100 free attribute points he obtained to the intelligence attribute and checked the attributes. After breaking through to the silver level. Name, Arcane race, human level. 50 health. 9340/9340 mana. 35,100/35,100 status, normal experience. 0/100W, unassigned experience, 4,532,167 points. Main occupation, Arcanist. Intermediate, secondary occupation, non-talent, Almighty, legendary. Attributes, strength 326, attribute. Modification, agility 164, intelligence 692, attribute modification, charisma 166, mysticism 161, stamina 163, luck 4, +3, free attribute points 0, expertise. Arcane thinking, mastery of all martial arts, advanced fatigue resistance, rank suppression, fearless challenger, low level strong body, silver moon protection, undead slayer, enemy of the dead. Intermediate undead energy resistance, silver rank bonus, extraordinary magic power, skills, jugglery, spell hand, cleansing, flash, first level spells, fireball, frost bolt, charm human, second level spells, ice blade, wind walk, earth escape, repair moderate wounds. Levitation, third level spells, chain fireball, elemental shield, stink cloud, shape human. Fourth level spells, control corpses, fear, advanced elemental shield, first level arcane, oil, third level arcane, blue ball, aging ray, collapse explosion, martial arts, charge, soul break, fury, shield slam, resistance enhancement, secondary all attribute improvement, hunter combat skills, tracking. Trap, Wind Walk, Dwarf racial skills, Stone statue form, milestones, Intermediate mage, Silver, the first step to strength, Silver, best friend of the elves, Incredible miracle, Gold level conqueror of the secret realm, Legend degree. 10. National level, Court Viscount Legend degree plus 10. Equipment, Emerald staff, Emerald amulet, Concentration ring, Secret treasure, Arcadia's good luck brooch comment, stronger, maybe, but you are still weak in front of the real power. The data panel is sorted out in stages, and some detailed effect text is deleted from the panel. It will be released in the form of free chapters later. Really strong. There was nothing special at the bronze level. After breaking through the silver level, all of Lisi's accumulation was transformed into real strength and reflected in the panel data. Nearly 10,000 health points, more than 30,000 mana points, and intelligence attribute points are even about to break through 700 points. This is several times more powerful than the bronze level. This is the panel of the silver level boss. I traveled through time and became the big boss of the game. Please read it. It is very important for children. Thank you. Thanks. By the way, I recommend this book. This is really a game, not a natural disaster wholesale center. Written by my good brother Tingayu. Interested big guys can take a look. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.